O'Reilly! You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Walz, we call him the Ravishing One. How are you today?
Can you say something to me?
We're on the air. Caller, we're on the air. Go ahead, please. It's Ryan Schmelz. You're live in Idaho, Ryan. How are you, sir?
Yeah, how are you, Kevin? Long day. I did start watching the McMahon documentary, and I need to stop because it's just making me want to make fun of you even more.
Well, hold on. That's what people do here for 4 hours a day. Welcome to the club. Yeah. At one time, I used to take myself seriously. Now, I'm the punching bag. So before we get to this, I got to get Netflix having the big Vince McMahon thing. Your first impressions.
I'm only about most of the way through the first episode, but I do like how they explained wrestling to the world in the show. So I'm curious how they go farther with it, but I'm very impressed so far.
Now, wait a minute. You're a serious guy. Have you ever told any of your sources like Speaker Johnson or Chuck Schumer your fascination with professional wrestling? And if you did, would that hurt your credibility with them, sir, or would it enhance it?
Well, I think it would probably help because, isn't Linda McMahon on Trump's transition team? So
yeah,
there's that. And then, of course, there's a rising star in the Republican Party by the name of Glenn Jacobs who could be, maybe the next, I don't know. He's got a bright political future. I just don't know where it's going to be.
Yeah, it's a lot of, if you will. House Speaker Johnson to sidestep the GOP rebels on the government funding. Once again, seeking Democratic support to avoid a shutdown. This is very unusual, or is this just how things run these days, Ryan?
It's kind of how things run. Johnson didn't really have much of a choice at this point, unless you wanted to just let a government shutdown happen. He tried it the GOP's rebels way, which was to do a 6-month extension of government funding with a election security bill attached to it. It failed to get enough support, so Johnson had to go back to the drawing board and do a continuing resolution, or CR. And this is something I think a lot of people just kind of expected to happen. They kind of said, okay, well, if we don't get the votes, this is what Johnson's going to have to do. And there were those who normally don't vote for these short-term spending bills and have been pretty consistent about not voting for them in the past. And one of them did vote for it yesterday, and he said to me the reason he voted for it was because having a shutdown before the election would be political suicide.
And yet you have a lot of people that are cheering for that, and that's got to be tough for him.
Yeah, they certainly do, and there are those fear a shutdown a lot less than others do, but at the same time, I think Johnson made it very clear that was never going to be an option. He did not want to be the reason why troops don't get paid and all that, so there were a lot of reasons why Johnson was on board with just avoiding a shutdown and moving on.
Our great friend Ryan Schmelz joining us here on KIDO Talk Radio. Did you watch Arthur? You didn't watch the Arthur Ashe thing last night from AEW?
I did not know.
Okay. Pretty good matches.
Was it bad?
No, actually, it was really good. It was really good.
Good. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I know you're a big AEW guy.
Yeah, I have been. AEW's got a Jacksonville Jaguars problem right now, and I need to address that because that was one of my sleeper teams going into the season, and they have been putrid at best.
Well, Ryan, anything else? We love the additional sports commentary here, and I've asked for it. So anything else we should be looking out for this week?
Today is going to be the first hearing for the Trump assassination attempt from the House task force. So you definitely want to watch that. It's going to be, I think we're learning a lot of information about this thing, but I think we're going to start talking about, potential solutions here. And stay tuned.
Finally, I know you're a big Georgia-Alabama fan. Who are you going with over the weekend?
Georgia. Georgia's looked like the most complete team in college football, besides maybe the Texas Longhorns.
I was going to say, have you seen Texas, Ryan? Have you seen Texas?
Yeah, no, I would say that it's a two-team race right now. It's Georgia and Texas. I know there's some undefeated teams still, and I know Ole Miss is still undefeated, but just in terms of who they've played and the body of work and everything that's going on, and just the where they were last year to this year. I mean, it's Georgia, Texas. They just really look like a class above right now.
Yeah, and if you're not doing anything, there'll be Boise State, Washington State live from the Blue on FS1 at 10 o'clock your time.
Hey, both teams look good so far, but Ole Miss, Kentucky's also going to be big. That's noon Eastern time, Saturday.
My man! Ryan, you take care, brother.
You too, my friend.
All right, our great friend Ryan Schmelz joining us. And it's just funny how, you mention your team and then Ryan mentions his team. If only politics could be that way. If only politics could be that way. By the way, from our friends at PJ Media here, and we saw this yesterday. If you missed Clay and Buck and Sean and Lars, well, thankfully, we still have the clips from Joe Biden on The View. And it was really shocking when you're thinking about this. Apparently, Biden is the latest here. And you're going to go, well, Kevin, I need some good news because Kamala's going to win and it's going to be bad and we're not going to survive. And I was listening to Sean Hannity yesterday. They go, we got to win. And if we don't win, I'm truly. And I'm like, okay, Sean, I appreciate that. Sean's such a great talent. But I'm listening to the clips on The View, and then I'm doing some show prep here this morning with Sweet William. And he came across this article in PJ Media, which is really what Joe Biden is doing. He's deciding to get back on the trail. Apparently, the morning briefing, Joe Biden goes off leash to help write a campaign ad for Donald Trump, which we'll get to in a moment. But and we'll get you the clips from The View. But they treated the old man badly, and never ever. Remember, we see there's a mean side to Joe Biden. Remember when he couldn't remember the Prime Minister of India? Hey. Who am I introducing? Hey, y'all, come here, you. Wrangle over here. And just, loses it. That's not good. Not good for Kamala. The Democrats have to be united. And, Joe gets mad. He pulls some votes away from Pennsylvania. It's over. Anyway, Donald Trump's strongest moment in the debate against Harris came during his closing statement when he reminded everyone that she has been in office and presiding over all the ills that she promises to change if elected. It was effective because it's true. Now, remember, Harris has been running in some sort of bizarro world where she posts positions that Trump is somehow responsible for everything that she and her boss have screwed up since 2021. Heck, the Democrats sometimes act as if Trump has been president since 2009. Harris apologists defend this insanity by saying that as vice president, she really wasn't in a position to affect the policy. That runs counter to the narrative that led up to the crowning of her as the nominee. The sycophants in the mainstream media were championing Harris as quite the flexing VP back then. Now, get this. Biden just kneecapped the official line of the Harris-Walz people. As Stevens said in the headline, the old boy is totally trying to sabotage Madam Veep's campaign. He pretty much just wrote another ad for Team Trump and Vance. And then it goes on and on and on. Because of their stranglehold on the mainstream media, the Democrats are very good at keeping the squabbing hush-hush. For example, the Clintons and the Obamas weren't exactly big buddies, but the press never mentioned that. It's an unwritten rule that the New York Times says that only disagreements among Republicans can be reported on. As Mr. Green wrote, Harris is all but running as the challenger to Biden's record. And then you think about this, and then you have Biden, whose brain is running on empty, occasionally blurts out well-rehearsed sentences or two saying that he and Harris did this, he and Harris did that. And of course he and Harris are going to do that because that is his legacy. When Harris is promising a new way forward, and then you have Joe Biden saying he delegated everything from foreign policy to domestic policy to Harris because as vice president, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do, and everybody was functioning with the same synopsis saying, what is it, bub? Was she in the room with you? Was she the last person to sign off on Afghanistan? Or was she totally left out of the loop? And the Democrats and the mainstream media, they want us to believe that she's the new Obama. Look, we've all been there. I know Barack Obama.
Thanks, Obama.
Barack Obama was not a friend of mine. And I got news for you, Vice President Harris.
Thanks, Obama.
You are not Barack Obama. So let's get to some of the clips from The View, shall we? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And this happens all the time. When you're, thinking of all these crazy things. Now, remember, the big thing was Joe forced out? So on The View, because they're a hard-hitting political show, thankfully the show is going to be canceled, he was asked the big question.
We all agree at this table it's very selfless of you to pass the baton and step aside. There was a perception that perhaps your hand was forced in some point.
Pass the baton? I do believe the Seymour Hersh story. And do you remember what that was? He got a late-night phone call. No, not from the 900 line, not from Hillary Clinton, but from Barack Obama and said, "Hello, Joe. How are you, Joe? Joe, hey, you need to go, Joe." I don't want to go. Oh, look, we've talked to Kamala, and we're going to pull the 25th Amendment on you. You can't believe that Nancy Pelosi and all those other people didn't know that? By the way, the vice president does have another interview. We'll get to her in a minute. And once again, she goes on and on and on and on. But first, let's get back to Joe Biden, who has proven once again that he is still alive.
Pointed fingers to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who you have a long relationship with and accomplished many things with. Did you feel that your hand was forced, and what is your relationship with Speaker Pelosi now?
My relationship is fine. Look, I never fully believed the assertions that somehow there was this overwhelming reluctance of my running again. I didn't sense that. And although the polling, as I said, Biden's polling was different, the fact of the matter is my polling was about, we're always within range of beating this guy.
Yeah.
And, but what I did was, I think there were, it makes sense. There were some folks who would like to see me step aside so they have a chance to move on. I get that. That's just human nature. But that wasn't the reason that I stepped down. I stepped down because I started thinking about it. It's hard to think of, I know you're only 30, but it's hard to think of, it's hard for me to even say how old I am. No, I'm serious. I don't know if you're,
Why is that?
I give my word. It's like, holy God, that can't be right.
Right. That Joe Biden did not exist. That Joe Biden was shown the door. And remember, think of all the money that has flown into Kamala Harris. Think of all the money that was flowing in after Joe Biden got the boot. After Joe Biden was shown the door, of course Nancy Pelosi said, "You have to go." Of course Nancy Pelosi said, "I don't want anything to do with this guy." Now, what's he going to do? Say, well, yes, they forced me out. But now Joe has decided that he's been a good Joe, that Joe has decided that he is going to write it his way. So you can't say that I delegated everything to her. The disaster is hers, and she being the candidate of change. Now, yesterday, the vice president was on with MSNBC's Stephanie Ruhle, a young lady that effectively has done very well for herself, cosmetically appealing. The hair dye still works. As somebody likes to tell me, she's had some work. The work still works. Remember when people would get old? Our friend Bo has never lived in a world where TV people get old. You just get a little work. You get a little zip, a little nap, a little nip, and a little tuck. I liked it when people got old on television. Stephanie Ruhle, probably mid-40s. Looks like she's in her mid-20s. When you're in your mid-40s or 50s or what have you look a little weathered. There's nothing wrong with looking a little weathered. She does not look a little weathered.
How do you find that line to make sure corporations are paying their fair share, but they're not leaving our country?
Well, listen, I work with a lot of CEOs. I have spent a lot of time with CEOs, and I'm going to tell you that the business leaders who are actually part of the engine of America's economy agree that people should pay their fair share.
No, they don't. They agree that we should pay our fair share, that they should get more profits, because the more profits they get, the more blood they can suck out of the turnip, the bigger their paychecks are, the bigger their golden parachutes are, and the less for all of us. Capitalism is a system where some people make it in America, some people don't. It's not socialism where everybody gets the same loaf of bread.
They also agree that when we look at a plan such as mine that is about investing in the middle class, investing in new industries, investing in bringing down costs, invest in entrepreneurs like small businesses, that the overall economy is stronger and everyone benefits.
Talk about that answer. I do, but here's what's a little tricky. She doesn't answer the question.
She doesn't answer the question. By the way, there's Nicole Walz, the traitor. Nicole Walz at one time worked in the Bush White House, at one time was working with Sarah Palin, and then decided to take the big money and become a Democrat, to become a liberal, and is a star of MSNBC. Good for her. If you can sell your political positions and make a profit off it, so be it. But here you have Stephanie Ruhle, again, far from a Republican, far from a conservative, saying she didn't answer the question.
I do, but here's what's a little tricky. She doesn't answer the question around if the GOP is controlling the Senate, if she can't raise corporate taxes, where is she going to get the money from, to expand the child tax credit and do all the things she wants to do? And she says, we just have to do it.
Yes, we just have to do it. You know what I would love to do? I would love to say, we just have to get a new house. We just have to move to Salt Lake City. We just have to buy a chateau on the Oregon coast. Kevin, you and Mrs. Miller can't afford a chateau on the Oregon coast. We just have to do it. Hello, homeowner on the Oregon coast that have these beautiful, majestic homes. Heck, I would take a little one room with a view that cost millions of dollars. I just have to be here. Okay, that'll be such and such. No, you don't understand. If it doesn't work in the real world, it shouldn't work in the government's world, right? By the way, it's the last week of the month, and our good friends Rob at Treasure Valley Subaru, they want to sell 28 more Subarus before next Monday. Boy, where did September go? Good riddance to September, everybody. That means it's a good week to get a good deal on a new Subaru at Treasure Valley Subaru. Here are 3 things to negotiate. Number 1, they don't mind. They want you to do this. Ask more for your trade. Treasure Valley Subaru consistently pays more for trades because they have the Idaho Center pre-owned superstore that they need the inventory for. By the way, marvelous place there. Did you know that they were voted the best in Boise? I think it's by the Boise Weekly, but the best in Boise right there at Treasure Valley Subaru. Ask for a bigger discount on the Subaru you're buying with 24/7 new Subarus in stock. Is that 24/7? That's no. Kevin, it's early. I get it. 247 new Subarus in stock. They can afford to sell a few at little or no profit. Make sure you get the deal and no one else gets it. Ask them to shop the lowest interest rates possible. It's not embarrassing. They want you to do this. You want to compare interest rates from banks, credit unions, and Subaru financing. Let them check with all their lenders. There's 3 tips. And again, do appreciate our friends at Treasure Valley Subaru. They do so much for the community. Why not do something for yourself and something for the community by going and getting a new Subaru, a better pre-owned car, or lowest interest rates, or something of that nature? You deserve it. And unlike Kamala and everything else, you'll actually pay for it with money, and you'll actually get more for it with your money. Doesn't that sound like something that's totally American? At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So again, coming up, your thoughts on this. By the way, Joe Biden saying that he did the right thing when it came to the Afghanistan withdrawal.
When I came to office as president, Afghanistan to replace Vietnam as America's longest war. I was determined to end it, and I did. It was a hard decision, but the right decision. 4 American presidents had faced that decision, but I was determined not to leave it to the 5th. It was a decision accompanied by tragedy. 13 brave Americans lost their lives, along with hundreds of Afghans in a suicide bomb. I think those lost lives, I think them every day.
Do you? Did you welcome those people home? Did you go over things? Did you do your very best to save those lives? Probably not. By the way, controversy not only in Ohio, but across the country when we're talking about the Haitians. There's a big controversy going on in Congress. We'll talk a little bit about that. And one congressman said they need to go, and Haiti's a bad place, and They called him a racist. Wow. Talk about waking up to something wild. Kevin Mill in the morning on Idaho's talk station, KIDO Talk Radio.
To earn citizenship.
Then I want to just ask you about a little job and a big job.
Okay.
The first one, just a fact check. Okay. Because your opponent
there is
almost
no little
every
job.
day. Okay.
There's no such thing as a little job.
Okay, fair. Because your opponent almost every day seems to be talking about this. So I just want to ask you yes or no. At any point in your life, have you served 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, working at a McDonald's? Yes or no? That's it.
I have.
Okay. Now the other job.
It's funny, though, that Donald Trump is onto something. No one has any proof of her ever working at a McDonald's. And this is supposed to be, and this is why we have so much cynicism, so much craziness in the world we live in today, where Donald Trump says he used his right lace to cross over his left lace to tie his shoes, and they go, no, it was the other way around. You're a liar. And here we have the buddy cozy media with Stephanie Ruhle asking the vice president that, whether or not she, was at McDonald's. If you weren't at McDonald's, there's nothing wrong with not working at McDonald's. I think it's a very noble place to work. And by the way, I know a lot of people working at McDonald's right now that they're very frustrated because you have people cutting their hours and trying to do more with less people. I mean, how in the world can you run a McDonald's with only 4 people? Well, you get rid of the in-dining thing, which thanks to the pandemic they have, and you could still dine inside, but you have to talk to a computer. And then all of a sudden, you're in the drive-thru and they move you along. Part of the magic of McDonald's, at least for me, was you would go in and sit down and have a place to eat. At least that's what Ray Kroc decided it to be, but not anymore. And yet we have the goofs here just laughing about it.
But it was not a small job. Like, I did the fries. I mean, yes,
for a
but
small
I did.
period of time. But then let me ask about a big job.
But to your point, if you don't mind, before you
Please.
get to the big job, there's a part of the reason I even talk about having worked at McDonald's is because there are people who work at McDonald's in our country who are trying to raise a family. I worked there as a student. I was a kid who worked there trying to raise families and pay rent on that. And I think part of the difference between me and my opponent includes our perspective on the needs of the American people and what our responsibility then is to meet those needs.
Then to the big job. You have laid out policy in great detail.
Yeah.
But the economy is an unpredictable beast. And you are running for a job that takes extraordinary instinct and guts.
Yeah.
What's the last time you had to make a gut decision? This here is very prescribed. It's very controlled.
Yeah. Probably the biggest gut decision I've made most recently is to choose my running mate. Yeah. There were lots of good, incredible.
Yeah. Would it be in Afghanistan? Wouldn't it be, the Inflation Reduction Act? Wouldn't it be all those things? Wouldn't it be something of that nature? At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Much more on Joe Biden, who says that he's still in charge. Well, if he's in charge, what about Kamala? By the way, don't forget our friends at Beacon Plumbing. They say stop freaking, call Beacon, beaconplumbing.net for all your plumbing needs. Hot water tank going, call Beacon Plumbing. Clogged drain, call Beacon Plumbing. Clogged toilet, you really need to call Beacon Plumbing. Commercial? Sure. Residential? Sure. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Stop freaking, call Beacon. KIDO Talk Radio. Dave Burnett is rolling in the KIDO Talk Radio Traffic Center and the KIDO Talk Radio Newsroom. Have we said it enough? How about that, crazy man?
KIDO.
Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, traffic on the freeway getting a bit heavier now, coming out of Candy County into Ada County, slowing there at the county line. Don't forget a lot of construction projects downtown Boise, State Street right there at 18th. You have construction down to 1 lane either direction. Treasure Valley Coffee is celebrating 40 years of serving the southern Idaho business community. With the latest coffee equipment and over 80 varieties of coffee, they now offer bar and restaurant supplies. Check out tvcoffee.com. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Governments around transit dollars. and looking holistically at the connection between that and housing, and looking holistically at the incentives we in the federal government can create for local and state governments to actually engage in planning in a holistic manner.
No, it's not a drinking game. By the way, I don't know if you've ever engaged in that. I think the version of the Kevin Miller program, if we did that, it wouldn't be a drinking game, and we would have to have people sign a disclaimer or just whatever, saying that if you have stomach aches afterwards, we're not liable to this. It would be the chicken wing game. So every time she said holistically, you would have to take a bite of a really spicy chicken wing. And, that was 30 seconds, and she said the word holistically 3 times. Good morning once again. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I love this. Holistically. And, you think to yourself, is there any other word with this? The housing and holistically how it works. And if we, give people this, and all we need to do is just give people stuff. Well, it'd be nice to get a free handout. It'd be nice not to have to work, but most of us have grown up in America where you, in fact, work and you love working. For equal time's sake, here is J.D. Vance getting ready for his big debate against Minnesota Walz.
He recently detailed a plan that would end the Ukrainian war in a podcast that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called too radical. I want to give you the floor to respond to that. How do you respond to what Zelensky said, and can you detail how a Trump-Vance administration would end the war in Ukraine?
Well, look, the details for how Donald Trump is going to end the war in Ukraine is by not being weak and not being dumb, which is unfortunately something you can't say for the current administration. It's very simple. Russia didn't invade a single one of their neighbors for the 4 years that Donald Trump was president. And on the president before him and the president after him, somehow Russia keeps on invading their neighbors. It's because they don't respect American leadership and because our leaders aren't smart. So what Donald Trump brings back is not just strength, but intelligence to the Oval Office.
I think that's a holistically, a way of looking at something holistically, because if something isn't smart, somebody isn't smart, they're not going to really have a path to power, if you will. I mean, think about that. Holistically, if you're not smart, holistically, you're not going to have a good foreign policy, which means holistically that you're going to have people taking advantage of you, holistically speaking, right? By the way, before we get to the phones, this is a story the media is not telling you. And imagine, and let's hope that it doesn't happen here, but I'm sorry for the poor people in Ohio.
Jobs are getting took up, man. All these, you say our factory needs 50 people. That could be 50 Americans that don't have a job. Instead, the Haitians, they take exactly all those 50 spots, man. So that's 50 people that don't have a job.
Yeah. 50 people that do not have a job. Why isn't CNN talking about that? Why don't we take a look at that view? Let's go to the phones. Pro-Life joins us now with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, the Pro.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, you were talking about 50 jobs, Now, right there in central Ohio, Springfield, Ohio, there was a reporter in town I was watching, and he was going around and asking people, and the Americans, they are just totally disgusted with what the leadership of Springfield has done. And then all the people that used to be Democrats, they call it the ghetto. I guess there's a black part of Springfield. But every one of the ghetto houses had a Trump sign, had a Trump flag. And so the people of Springfield, I mean, they're waking up and they're realizing that this one world government, dictating what's going to happen about immigration and all this kind of stuff. And the reason that the World Organization, I guess you'd call it, and I don't know where they get their leadership messaging from, but the Democrats go along with the one world government stuff, and so they don't make any sense, and they're really puppets, and they're like holistic puppets, and so that's what's happening. Now, see, the Trump people, they're independent, and they're going to make a decision, and so they're not going to go to a war. but the world leadership is, say the World Economic Forum or whatever is saying where we're going to keep this war going in Ukraine and Russia, and so the Biden administration does that. So it doesn't matter who the Democrat president is; they're going to do the same thing. They're going to just keep going with and you notice that the Democrats all vote as a block. You won't see one Democrat go away from voting with the rest of the party. And I cannot believe that they're that intimidated and have lost their independence. And some of them are smarter than that, but they know.
No, they're not. They're all about themselves. They're all about being the libs.
Well, I know they are, but that they're not that stupid, but they're somehow afraid that they cannot advance in the Democrat system, and I guess you'd call it the one world order system, if they don't go along with what is being dictated. And that's the total difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. And the Republican side, there's some independents. People are thinking differently, voting differently. You see you see Republicans going against the party leadership a lot of times. And, that's good. I don't know why they do that sometimes, but everybody has their independence anyway. And so, we have the world's biggest cult, and it's worldwide. The socialist world government cult is everywhere. It isn't just in the United States. Canada's terrible. The Trudeau government is just the most fascist kind of place it should ever be. And so I don't know how we're going to overcome this, but people are going to have to get
Well, I think you overcome it by electing Republicans. Thank you for the call, Pro. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Did you know that KIDO Talk Radio is your home for Sean Hannity, the godfather of talk radio? Our great friend Sean, hear him only on KIDO Talk Radio today at 1.
KIDO Talk Radio. Turn up your radio. Here's the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
I happen to be partners with the largest radio company in the country, which is iHeartMedia. And then the second one would be the company that Mark Levin is a part of. And the third one, which is called Odyssey, well, apparently the FCC has moved with unprecedented speed to approve Soros's capture of the third largest radio company in the country. I wonder how many conservative talk show hosts will be left standing at the end of the day on their talk stations. The answer is probably zero. Now is the next move to go after other radio stations and silence talk radio completely? Would that be in the land of conspiracy theorist Rachel Maddow? I don't know, but certainly got to think about it. Why did he have a sudden interest in this out of nowhere?
Check out the Sean Hannity Radio Show later today, right here.
War, inflation, and recession. Did you know that experts call gold the everything hedge? Gold goes far beyond hedging against inflation or the stock market. It can potentially even guard you against today's wars in Ukraine and the Middle East. Not to mention the great economic danger of a recession coming, which is what we're all worried about. And that's why gold just hit another record high. And central banks, they just keep buying gold at a record pace. It's Linda here. Join me and thousands of people who have called Goldco the #1 rated gold company. It's time you diversify your money with time-tested safe haven assets, physical gold and silver. Today, Goldco is offering our listeners up to 8 years in free IRA fees, plus up to 8% in bonus silver with a qualified account. Call 855-815-GOLD for free IRA fees, free bonus silver, and a free gold and silver info kit. What are you waiting for? Call 855-815-GOLD. That's 855-815-GOLD. Do it today. You can't wait.
Thank you, Linda. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next, a tale of two Idaho men, one good, one bad. We'll talk about it next. Kevin Miller. 580-KIDO. So here we have a tale of two Idaho men. One good, one not so good. One good, one not so good. And you really have to pick your path in life, do you not? You have to pick your path in life where you think to yourself, do I want to be on the side of good or do I want to be on the side of not so good? And I take a look at this and I think to myself, life is all about choices. Life is always about the good and the bad and what we can do and what we can do to make things better. So on one hand, we have this Idaho man, Warren Jones Crazy Bull. That's a very unique last name. Crazy Bull. Now, Mr. Crazy Bull of Idaho allegedly made at least 9 threatening phone calls to President Trump's Palm Beach resident at Mar-a-Lago with a promise to kill him personally. Now, apparently it took 9 phone calls for this to happen. So, Mr. Crazy Bull apparently did not like President Trump, and Mr. Crazy Bull of Idaho decided that he was going to go after the president, which is absurd, which is crazy. So federal authorities arrested Crazy Bull only weeks after the president was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania, and before 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Roth attempted to kill the president again. Now, how old is Mr. Crazy Bull? Is Mr. Crazy Bull 35, 25? No. Apparently, he was 64. We don't know whether or not he was on Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security, but he decided that he had had enough of President Trump. Find Trump. I'm coming down to Bedminster tomorrow. I'm going to take him down personally and kill him, Crazy Bull said in one call. Wow. I start driving to the home of the multi-person blankest pig Trump to take him down. Single combat, said Crazy Bull on July 31st. I'm coming for you, Trump. Now, it took 9 Crazy Bull crazy phone calls to take Crazy Bull down. The Secret Service was able to confirm his identity, well, because he was using a T-Mobile device. They determined his location and took him into custody. Apparently, Crazy Bull was in Montana. According to court records, a Secret Service agent who interrogated Crazy Bull described him as having a racing thought patterns and seemed confused and paranoid. Mr. Crazy Bull, who's presumably Native American descent, told authorities that he threatened to kill Trump because of the broken treaties that resulted in his loss of land. Now, he's pled not guilty to threatening the former president. Now, you can be like Mr. Crazy Bull and say all these horrible things and threaten the president over land that you say was taken from you, or you can be like this Idaho man that was featured recently in Entrepreneur magazine, how an Idaho state senator saved a beloved franchise by hitting the road in his camper van. Peter Riggs' first job out of college was at Pita Pit. Years later, he returned as the CEO to bring the brand back to life. I think we still have a Pita Pit over by Boise State. Yeah, it's over there by the Verizon store, I think. I don't think Happy Teriyaki has taken that over. I think the Pita Pit is there. I can remember one time early in my career here at the beloved KIDO Talk Radio, and we had a guy who was going to go sell the Pita Pit, and I go, well, when'd you get it? And, there's a cost to everything. And part of his pitch was, well, if I can give you a sandwich, will you go over? Well, will they name it after me? No one likes you. Okay, well, we never did business with the Pita Pit, but I hear they're very good. So here you have Peter Riggs saved Pita Pit once. Can he do it twice? This is really a great story here. 2 decades ago, Riggs was a student at the University of Idaho, and he was all about the Pita Pit. After graduating, he and some friends bought a few franchises in, guess where? Not Idaho, the state of California. Apparently, he got a development agreement for the whole state. Instead, the Canada-based company said, you need to take over the U.S. operations. They were ready to move on. So he and some partners bought the business, grew it to 250 stations, and sold off their stake in 2018. But during the pandemic, Pita Pit shrunk to 65 locations. So this March, Riggs, who became an Idaho State Senator, returned as the CEO. So he's running the Pita Pit from Idaho, and he's a member of the Senate. To save Pita Pit again, he knew he'd have to work with the remaining franchisees, but they were distressful. They hadn't been a lot of support from corporate over the years, and they were worried about it. So apparently the guy came back and decided to do something about prices. One big problem was Pita Pit started 25 years ago selling a $5 or $6 sandwich. Boy, that sounds pretty good. Now it needs to be a $10 sandwich, but that's pricey for college kids. They wanted something smaller, and we had nothing, so he continued to reinvest in the franchise. So here we have, on one hand, we have Mr. Crazy Bull, who is charged with trying to kill the president or threatening the president. Let's be honest. Let's be accurate. And then on the other hand, we have Mr. Riggs, who's decided to save a Pita Pit franchise and really do something productive. Which person would you rather be? I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure that out. Don't forget our friends at Window World, windowworldboise.com for all your window needs. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, on the freeway working an accident, the 84 eastbound off-ramp, there's some lane blockage there, so you could be slowed just a bit. And as you come into downtown Boise, Idaho and 13th, working an accident there. Get paid to bank when you open a new checking account at Horizon Credit Union. Put some extra cash in your pocket. Visit hzcu.org/getpaid to find out how. That's your traffic now. I'm Dave Burnett on KIDO Talk Radio.
I appreciate the reports, Dave. We're just getting started. By the way, coming up today during the first hour of Clay and Buck, we have a pair of tickets for you to see Boise State football versus Washington State. Now, the Broncos are favored by 7 or 7.5, and unlike all those people on the sports stations, I'm not going to try and say, well, you need to do this and you need to dip your toe into the roulette table and do all sorts. No, I'm not going to tell you that. What I am going to say to you at 580-5436, we have a pair of tickets to give away. I wish we had more to give away, but we're so thankful to the Godless Corporation and to Clay and Buck for allowing us to do that. So when you hear the cue to call, be caller number whatever we say it is, and you're going to go see Boise State versus Washington State for free. It's the hottest ticket in town. It's our way of thanking you for listening to Kevin Miller in the morning, and of course Clay and Buck, and really supporting Idaho's talk station. We thank you very much for that. Coming up, our brand specialist, our news talk specialist, Peter Thiele, will join us as we continue to get ready for this big debate between Walz and J.D. Vance. Harris on one side, Trump on the other. Who's it going to be? What to look out for? Of course, that'll be on October 1st. We're looking forward to that. Joe Biden, once again, saying that Kamala is not new. She's just a repackaged version of Joe Biden himself.
And as vice president, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy.
Yeah. Don't blame me for Afghanistan. She did it. Don't blame me for the botched Afghanistan raid. She did it. Don't blame me for those Afghanis. And by the way, how horrific was that, where the Afghanis are literally clinging to the airplane, and some of them, they clung to the airplane when they froze to death before the oxygen got them. That is commitment, and those are people that did not want to be. Those are people that did not want to be left behind by the Taliban.
And he just wouldn't go. He was like a bug. He just kept being there. He was like a bug right there. So you felt.
There we have it. He slapped his hand, calling Donald Trump a bug. By the way, Donald Trump was on The View 19 times. They loved him before he became a Republican. They loved him before he decided to care for America. They loved him before he decided to do the right thing. And here we have Joe Biden doing his going away tour, if you will. It is something else.
Then he just wouldn't go. He was like a bug. He just kept being there. He was like a bug right there. So you felt...
Yeah. Well, he didn't squash him in the debate, did he? Did not squash him in the debate. Anyway, thank you very much for that, The View, and your phone calls. Remember, if you miss any portion of this program, all you have to do is go to Google, Schmoogle, Spotify, YouTube. That's right. Once again, Bright Lights, Big City. We are on YouTube, so you can catch any portion of the program. We have a lot of people going, hey, I missed your interview with such and such. I go to this hour and you can catch it, but why not catch the whole thing? So on the website, the app, and the podcast, and YouTube, you can stay with us. Kevin Miller, keep it right, America. We have the free KIDO Talk Radio app available. We have a great story there about the Idaho Vandals, number 4 in FCS. Of course, Boise State taking on Washington State. You can win tickets during Clay and Buck today. More details coming up. Our great friend Peter Thiele joining us. When it comes to talk radio, there's no one better. When it comes to branding or coaching or being a talent, Peter's the very best. We appreciate him joining us from somewhere in America. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning. By the way, I want to go off and talk about something. If you've never had this, you need to have a listener bring you some. Have you, Idaho, I think, besides Utah, has the highest percentage per capita of members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, right?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Have you ever had Mormon funeral potatoes?
I have written about them, but I've never had them.
Oh, my goodness. I was introduced by my brother, who works in an office with a lot of LDS members. And he was just going on and on. They do potlucks. And he goes, yeah, one of the Mormon guys shows up with these potatoes, and I can't get away from them. So someone needs to bring you those wonderful potatoes. They're amazing.
Yeah, that would be great to have a morning of breakfast potatoes. That would be...
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong. So the presidential campaign is going on. Kamala Harris is gave an interview, very softball interview, that she fumbled with MSNBC. If MSNBC throws you softballs and you fail that ain't good.
No, not at all. With Stephanie Ruhle and the like, what was your take on it?
Well, it's obvious that there's something going on with her. Have you noticed she'll go into these sort of weird sort of rants and start to laugh?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Do you think she's drinking?
No. Hold on. This is why we have Peter Thiele on. Only Peter Thiele could come up with this observation. Please go ahead.
So I was in D.C. for a radio event a few weeks ago, and there was someone there who I'm acquainted with who works for one of the big networks, and I won't say which one because I don't want her to be pointed out. And she and I were at, during a break just chatting, and I just said, hey, how drunk is she? How drunk is Harris? And she goes, yeah, everybody pretty much knows in media. I said, yeah, but nobody covers it.
Amazing.
And you'll see these things pop up online where Kamala Harris is like rambling on and on about the tops to Starbucks cups. That they're white and she gets her lipstick over it. Oh, I don't even know. And I'm just going, yeah, that's the type of observation. You're at a cocktail party, and your buddy or a coworker or a friend's wife or girlfriend has had a couple of belts of Chardonnay, and that's what they go off and they begin saying things like that. Men do the same thing. But she comes across as somebody who enjoys imbibing. And there's not a problem with having an imbibing moment, but probably 10 a.m. while you're running for president is not a good time.
Not during these days at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's been running on this idea of joy. She's going to bring us joy. No, she's not. In fact, there was a body language expert on this interview on MSNBC where she was, Kamala Harris was explaining something that she was going to do while her head was saying no. This is what we're going to do, and she's shaking her head no during the deal. This lady, and I'm sure she's a nice person, but we do not need her as President of the United States. If she cannot handle doing a solo news conference as a presidential candidate, if she cannot handle doing real interviews that are not pre-taped by friendly media sources, we're in real trouble, because we're asking this individual to go and negotiate stuff with world leaders we don't get along with. And there's nothing in her history or in her presentation that she's able to negotiate. One of the things that came out of the Stephanie Ruhle interview, Stephanie Ruhle brought up the thing, well, what if Republicans oppose you? And Harris had no way of responding. And probably one of the biggest problems that we have in politics, and ironically, Trump was actually quite good at this. And Biden, you would have thought would have been good because of his history in the U.S. Senate, is the idea of sitting down and making a deal. Okay, I'm not going to get everything I want. Here's what I want. What can I give you? And now we have politicians, Kevin, and the entire KIDO audience that are unable to sit down and make a deal across the aisle. And that hurts us as the American people, because there's major things that need to be addressed. We need to be addressing artificial intelligence. We need to be addressing, international corporations that seem to have more power than the U.S. government. And we're there. These are the points that we're at right now.
Our great friend Peter Thiele joining us, Kevin Mill in the Morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Let me go off track with you, if you don't mind.
Fine.
What do you make, and Glenn Beck is making a big deal of this, Sean Hannity mentioned it in his morning update, you are a person that is above reproach, that you've dedicated your life to radio, talk radio, to talent, to holding people accountable. What do you make of the Soros move on Odyssey?
That's a good question. In fact, I was speaking with some people from that company. And I know several people who are conservative talk show hosts who run talk stations in that company. The big question is that does he, when Soros takes over Odyssey, does it become a source of profit or a source of propaganda? And by history, it's tough to go out and figure out what that answer is. It may be a source of propaganda where he pushes his agenda. It may be a thing where he says, I can buy into this cheap and make a lot of money. I don't know the answer.
Well, it is fascinating, and the reason why I asked you that question is you have a lot of conservatives going toe-to-toe and saying this is the end of talk radio. On the other hand, from a business perspective, Mr. Soros bought the properties fair and square. The company is in trouble. He's investing in it, which is a good thing. And, I know you're very familiar with Jerry Del Colenio, and Jerry, of course, is a little bit more progressive than you and I, has a different take, and this is a chance that he could build a company rivaling the largest, iHeartMedia, which you're very familiar with. We all are. The predecessor, Clear Channel, that used to own this station as well. So from a business perspective, it wouldn't really make a lot of sense to get rid of conservative talk radio, or would it?
Well, quite frankly, it wouldn't, mainly because news talk stations in nearly every market, especially large markets, are the greatest source of income in radio. That's where the money comes in, because there's so much to monetize on a talk radio station. And because spoken word is the secret sauce of news talk radio, that the audience is not averse to hearing a commercial, where if you are in certain types of music formats, they are not as readily conditioned to listen to spoken word.
Yeah, it'll be something to watch. And then again, now I'm going to go a little deeper with you on this. Have you? Do you know who George Soros' Jr.'s girlfriend is, or his fiance, or his soon-to-be wife?
Yeah, Alex is dating or engaged or shacking up with Uma Weiner.
Yes, Uma Weiner. Yes, who has aged quite well. I would think you'd agree with that.
No, she's a lovely lady.
Yes.
Terrible politics, but not bad to gander at.
Yes, and Alex is gandering quite a bit. So we could see Alex having a huge impact on the media and politics for quite some time.
Yeah, and again, just sort of depends. It's right now he's doing his dad's bidding because he, of all the Soros children, he was the one kissing up to dad to take over the empire. Now, when George dies, at some point he will, he's in his mid-90s, it's, he's got 10 years at the most. So he's likely to be passing away in the next several years. Now, what happens when it ends? And the other problem is that, and again, I don't know how they've set up the estate. People frequently, say, well, the estate's set up and, it'll go in. Children very rarely keep their parents' agendas going in a business. Sometimes they do, but I remember the Stroh's family. Remember Stroh's beer?
Yes, sir.
Stroh's beer used to be everywhere. You would go into a store, and whether it's the grocery store, liquor store, whatever, they would have a big display of Stroh's beer. And now, good luck finding it. And the problem was, after Daddy Stroh died, his heirs kept suing each other. Lost a ton of money. Now, there are more, there's more than one child of George Soros. I don't know how many he has, and I don't know if George has given them, a neat amount of, have set them up financially where they won't care. But when George dies, what if all of a sudden one of the siblings is not happy with what Alex did, that Alex was busy conniving against an old man, and begins suing? Could happen.
Well, we're always we seem to be seeing that with the Murdoch empire, where they can't agree on anything. Yeah,
and Rupert has put his kids in different, in charge of different areas and stuff like that, and that's a big thing. I once worked for a company where the founder of the company passed away, and he wanted the company ran exactly the same way. Well, his children couldn't stand each other, so they split up the company. And, for years they were, yes, Dad, we will do exactly as you say, Dad. Yes, Dad. Yes, Dad. And as soon as Dad croaked, the game, it was on. So I don't know. I've never met George Soros. I've never met Alex Soros. I don't know. Obviously George is an ideologue and wants to control the world, and not since David Rockefeller has there been a more menacing, rich individual wanting to affect society. So again, I don't know. That's a good question.
Our great friend Peter Thiele joining us, Kevin Miller in the Morning, KIDO Talk Radio. So you have coached high-level talent. You are high-level talent. So if you were coaching Donald Trump or Harris, what would you tell them? And you have no problem not holding back your opinion and telling these big-egoed people what they need to do.
Yeah, it's for Trump, I would keep him focused. The other problem with Trump is this. He has one weakness, and, well, we all have several weaknesses. But Trump's one weakness is something that really is an Achilles heel to him. He is and can easily be seduced by flattery. He loves flattery. And he occasionally has put people around him, whether and we've seen this in his campaigns. We saw this during his presidency, that don't like him, don't like the agenda, but they busily praise him, hoping that he can go and give things to them. So Trump's kids, Don Jr., Eric, and Ivanka, the adult children, have been, from all accounts, they are the ones that call their dad and say, "Dad, no." Melania says no. So my deal is with Trump is that he and I don't know how you tell an 80-year-old billionaire, your instincts on people sometimes are not that good. But, that would be the thing, and to keep him focused on the mission, the economy, crime, border. It's the world seemingly going to war. Those are four big things. For Kamala Harris, they are busy trying to run the campaign like it's the year 2000 for the Democrats. They essentially are hiding the candidate. They did that successfully with Biden. Why can't they do that successfully with Kamala Harris? And so they will do whatever they can to hide her, to keep her from being anywhere close to being off script. I find it amazing, the social media posts by her husband and Tim Walz, speaking off the cuff, doing all this. She cannot do that. They protect her. And in this world of feminism and the idea of wanting a female president, I have no problem with that. I'm all in for a woman president. I want to hear the candidate speak. I don't want to hear some man speak for her.
Our great friend Peter Thiele joining us, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. What do you make of this big debate coming up? What are you watching for? I'm trying to figure out the messaging that comes down to the two groups, and we talked about this previously, is that there's two groups that will determine the next president of the United States. This is pretty much consistent for the last 50 years. It's turnout of black voters, and it is white Roman Catholics. The black voters tend to be somewhat monolithic. They'll vote about 90%, except I saw a recent poll saying that Kamala Harris only has 83% support in the black community, which is not good for them. That is not good. So we are now looking at, and white Catholics are not monolithic. They disagree on a wide variety of issues, but winning that group is highly important. So I think the discussion will be around hitting, especially for the Democrats, trying to make sure they hype up and get black support, and the other for the Republicans to make sure they are appealing to white Catholics, especially working class, blue collar worker Catholics. Well, that sounds like Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Wisconsin, throw in some Michigan, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's where it is. That's where the game is played, and obviously Georgia, which is not looking good for Kamala Harris, even though they're spending a lot of time in Georgia. That has a huge population of black Americans, and the one thing about Atlanta that a lot of people don't know is that you are a college-educated professional Black American. You are very likely to want to move to Atlanta. It is. I have a buddy of mine who just passed away, who was a civil rights marcher. He marched with Martin Luther King. He was been there. They did not live in Atlanta. All three of his sons got degrees. One's a veterinarian, the other's an accountant, and I forget what the other one does. All professionals. They all moved promptly to Atlanta, and this guy and his wife moved to the Atlanta area mainly because they wanted to be around their sons, their wives, and their grandchildren. So it's if Kamala Harris cannot win Georgia, she cannot be the President of the United States. It really is. It is just like the Civil War, that being the real battle. Well, in 2024, that's the real battle.
Well, it seems like President Trump has mended fences with Governor Kemp, who has shown himself to be a very shrewd and capable politician.
Yeah, and I think the deal is with with what's going on in that state. Governor Kemp seems to have done a great job in that state. He's very popular. And I know he and President Trump have not seen eye to eye on things. But I really think that the future of this nation, here's what's going to happen. Here's why the Democrats are so desperate to win another term. They know that Trump wants to dismantle the regulatory state, the deep state. And the Democrats believe if they get one more term as president, it won't matter who will be president from now on, because the administrative state will have so much power over everyone's lives that we will no longer be represented by politicians. We will only be represented by the deep state, and essentially they will be able to push their agenda unchecked.
Our great friend Peter Thiele joining us. Peter, if people want to get a hold of you, follow you on Twitter, get your thoughts on branding, get your thoughts on anything else, what can they do, sir?
Yeah, hit me up at Peter Thiele on the old X, Peter. Now here's the kick. I'm like the billionaire's last name, Thiel, but I have an extra E because I have $7 billion less. So it's at Peter Thiele, PeterThiele. And on the X, I give my opinions on almost anything. I'll throw business stuff in there. I'll throw pop culture stuff. It's a wide variety of stuff. And I love interacting with KIDO listeners.
Well, we appreciate you, and we can't wait to hear what you have to say next week. And, on a personal nature, thank you for everything, sir. I really appreciate you.
Well, I'm really proud of you, and your accomplishments are really good. By the way, now that and I've not told you this, but I went and I started growing a beard a few years ago.
My man.
You have gone full mountain man look, and it's great. I like your mountain man look.
Thank you.
It's strong.
Thank you.
All righty. Talk to you later. Have a great day.
Thank you. Our great friend Peter Thiele. Appreciate him. Follow him on Twitter. Quick break. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. I do appreciate Peter Thiele joining us as well. And don't forget on Clay and Buck coming up today, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see Boise State versus Washington State. Do appreciate Peter Thiele. Just a really all-around great guy and his unique thoughts. Only Peter Thiele would say, well, maybe there's a little, having a few, allegedly, with Kamala Harris. As we said, other issues that we are talking about, we have the good Idaho guy who went and has decided to save Pita Pit again over by the campus of Boise State, the franchises and everything else, who's the Idaho State Senator. And then we have the other Idaho guy who was arrested for threatening to kill President Trump, which is just unfortunate. Not a good sign for the state, not a good sign for a lot of us. just something really to really wonder about and to ponder. Other things going on. We have Joe Biden on The View. We have Kamala Harris, who in fact is, giving us her best version of why in the world we should elect her as president. And the more she does these interviews, even with outlets she trusts, as Peter Thiele just said on KIDO Talk Radio, it's just not working. And when she talks about giving everything away, have you ever really wanted a job so much you're willing to do everything for it, even if it doesn't make sense? And we've read about this in business books and everything else where you just promise things. Did you ever read the book by Jeff What's-His-Name called Showtime? And then they made an HBO series on it called Winning Time. It was about the rise of the Los Angeles Lakers. What we have here with Harris and Biden is they promise everything. And when Dr. Jerry Buss was buying the Lakers and trying to finance the Lakers and everything else, he just promised everything. He didn't have the financing. He didn't have this. Let me tell you a quick story. There's a great writer by the name of Barry Trammell who wrote for 35 years for the Oklahoman. And he wasn't a political guy, sports guy, like one of these institutional guys that some states have, that every week or every 2 days, twice a week, you couldn't wait to read what Barry Trammell wrote. Now he works for the Tulsa World. So Barry decided that he was going to go into the internet business, and it was one of his best friends, and they were going to do something like, a Newsmax, or if you're into sports, The Athletic, basically a site dedicated to long-form articles. Bob Stoops was involved in it, the Oklahoma coach. Toby Keith's manager, put up the money. So to get these guys to quit their jobs, they told them, hey, we've got millions of financing, when in fact it was a loan from Toby Keith's business manager, and Bob Stoops of $1 million, $1.5 million. So they were undercapitalized. But to get these people to do it, they kept promising things. Hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then boom, when the paychecks needed to be paid, when payroll needed to be met, when the distribution didn't happen, it went kaplooey. Great article about it, too. Barry Trammell calling it the biggest mistake he made in his life. Well, let's fast forward to the presidential stakes. We take a look at what Harris is saying, Kamala's saying, and it's very simply that she's going to give everything away because we have to. Do you think that if Donald Trump could give everything away, he would? Do you think that Mitch McConnell, if he could give everything away, he could? And let's face it, not that either party is really fiscal conservatives, because we still have, pre-COVID levels or post-COVID levels when it comes to spending. So the fact of the matter remains that she's just promising everything. Now, think about this, and again, Sean Hannity loves to bring up the contrast again and again and again, and the contrast being that Donald Trump will go anywhere, take on anyone at any time, and do it before a town hall meeting. That can't be easy. And where's the town hall for Kamala? Where's the town hall for Walz? These are a lot of legitimate questions that need to be answered, do they not?
So Donald Trump is also the person who said women should be punished for exercising a decision that they rightly should be able to make about their own body and their future. So I think we would all agree that as a result of that perspective that he has about women, he also then chose 3 members of the United States Supreme Court who did as he intended, undid the protections of Roe v. Wade, and now in state after state, you see laws being passed that do punish women. Laws that, most recently, a heartbreaking story resulted in a young woman dying, a mother of a 6-year-old. Heart-wrenching stories. And that's for the listener, much less their family. So,
by the way, the question was, can we trust you? And we get story time. By the way, that story is under scrutiny in Georgia, I believe that's where she said that happened. Don't forget our friends at Beacon Plumbing. They say stop freaking, call Beacon today. KIDO Talk Radio Traffic. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, traffic on the freeway heavy and steady coming out of Candy County into Ada County, slowing at the county line in that construction zone. Don't forget in downtown Eagle, State Street and 2nd Street, you're going to have orange barrels up detours in place. Treasure Valley Coffee is celebrating 40 years of serving the southern Idaho business community. With the latest coffee equipment and over 80 varieties of coffee, they now offer bar and restaurant supplies. Check out tvcoffee.com. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Thank you, Dave Burnett. Don't forget today, during the first hour of Clay and Buck, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see Boise State take on Washington State. Looking forward to that. As they say, go Big Blue.
Fox News, I'm Therese Crowley. Storm surge and hurricane warnings posted for Hurricane Helene, now Category 2, to slam the Florida Gulf Coast tonight with storm surge up to 18 feet along the Big Bend. Mandatory evacuation orders. Feds raid New York's Gracie Mansion. Seized the phone of Mayor Eric Adams, indicted on federal charges. Defiant Adams charged he's targeted because he took on Biden-Harris migrant policies. Kamala Harris outlining her economic plan in Pittsburgh.
If we want the middle class to be the growth engine of our economy, we need to restore basic economic security.
And former First Lady Melania Trump marvels with Fox and Friends about the assassination attempts on her husband.
If you really think about it, the July 13 was a miracle, like that much, and he could not be with us.
America's listening to Fox News.
Problem in America. And if you criticize the Haitians, does that make you a racist? So, I don't know about you. And if you get up really early, maybe you're one of these people that you only need 6 hours of sleep. Maybe you're like Donald Trump and that you're just a machine. And because of the summer and because we go through the ordeal of the long blippity-blip days, and nobody wants to go to bed at 7:30 in the morning, or at night, or in the morning for that matter, and have to, with the triple digits and the air conditioners running, and, thank goodness for our friend Independent John and others in the HVAC business that really make a difference. Thank you for your work. It's outstanding. It's great. And it helps us sleep at night. And maybe you're like me and you've got that device that helps you breathe at night because whether it's genetics or you've had one too many hot dogs, you decide to, you get a CPAP, and I highly recommend it. Don't let obstructive breathing or snoring cause you to have severe health problems. Get that CPAP. Get it today if that's what your doctors say. I know it takes a long time to get used to. And it drives Mrs. Miller crazy where I'm sitting there and, it's, hey, aren't you going to bed? Nobody likes it when you're grumpy, Kevin Miller. And I get that. I don't like it when I'm grumpy. But I find myself tuning into some of the late night shows, and Gutfeld is great, but I think Greg Gutfeld is a great talent, but the other people are very marginal at best. So I find myself watching the liberals. And the liberals last night on CNN were debating a big issue, which we're going to get to. And it's not so much about politics, it's about how we communicate. And in Idaho, we're spoiled because it's very rare that we have people screaming and yelling at each other. Now, there are some, the liberals, that like to scream. There are others that, like to do certain things. But all in all, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, we get along great here in Idaho. Other places, in Oregon and California, not so much. In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine. They were talking about the craziness of Seattle, and that's why we admire Lars, who does a talk show in Seattle, does a talk show in Portland. That's where they, got rid of law enforcement. They cordoned off a city. And to be able to be a conservative and have principles and values and to survive in that environment, that's quite outstanding. That's quite outstanding indeed. When we're looking at people trying to censor speech. So last night I'm watching this show on CNN, and I know that nobody watches CNN, but they were talking about a congressman who sent out a tweet, Clay Higgins, and they called him a racist because Clay Higgins said that people don't want the Haitians in Ohio. People don't want these folks there, and that when Donald Trump gets in, he's going to ship them back. He's going to get rid of them. And it's funny, as the world figures out that Hoda is leaving the Today Show, which is a big deal, I guess. But you have Clay Higgins defending his controversial social media post about Haitians after deleting it on Wednesday, claiming his remarks were all true and that he could put up another controversial tweet tomorrow. What he said was, and I really don't get why people are so enamored with social media, because it usually gets them in trouble. And the Congressional Black Caucus confronted him on the House floor, and then he removed the tweet and he says, "You're not going to stop me." And then they're going after Mike Johnson, and you're going, what was the tweet that was so bad that caused this problem? And again, it all evolves around race. Never mind, you have people here from other countries that are here on visas that we give them. But if you quote something like this, you're a racist. So you had this gentleman, the congressman, who, by the way, happens to be a Republican, tweet something that was in poor taste. Was in very poor taste. And let's see, here it is. These Haitians are wild, eating pets. Nastiest country in the Western Hemisphere, cults, slapstick gangsters, but demand if they don't feel sophisticated now, they're filing charges against our president and vice president. All these thugs better get their mind right and they're blank out of the country before January 20th. So that's what he said. Now, Haiti is being run by gangs now. It is. Now, because he went a little deeper, they've called him a racist and everything else. And then he was confronted by the Congressional Black Caucus. I don't know what they did or didn't do, but then he deleted the tweet. And now he says he's going to bring it back. What it does is it puts the Republicans in a bad spot. Because instead of taking a look of, the issue involving people that are brought into this country that are working in conditions that aren't favorable, and gosh knows what's going on in Ohio, we have people screaming and yelling. So last night I'm watching this CNN show where basically you have a group of people and everybody yelling at each other, and then the moderator coming in and calling the congressman a racist. But there are elements of truth in this. And you have people that have been threatened, and they talk about good people. Well, there are also people that have broken the law, and you've had accidents involving people that were not allowed to drive that are driving. Let's take a listen to this, because there's a very relevant point that we always try to reinforce here about having a conversation.
It's the Haitians, or, it's the people who come from the S-hole countries. There's a pattern here. Because he wouldn't be saying this about them. Because last time I checked, it wasn't Haitians that were attacking the Capitol.
By the way, it's funny. You can let that profanity go on CNN, but we will not air that profanity on KIDO Talk Radio.
Trying to overthrow our government.
I think there's Republicans across the country who are actually thoughtful on these policies and are very worried about them as a whole, not just about Haitians, but they're worried about immigration policy and worried about the illegal immigrants. Well, here I am. I'm one of them.
I worked on Capitol Hill. I actually worked on this issue.
It's so funny because here you have a round table of people. You got, I suppose you have a white woman, you have a white man, you have a young lady we've had on this program before. You have a multiracial program, and that's great, that's fun, that's exciting, but you have one young lady here that proves the point that she starts yelling and gets emotional and then tries to take the moral high ground because she was a Capitol Hill staffer. Well, congratulations, so were millions of people in their lifetime. And then you have Frank Lutz, who is one of the greatest pollsters of all time, echoing what we all say. However, and it's funny because in the old days, we would have talk radio, and it would be like watching a NASCAR race. Nobody watched NASCAR to see if Jimmy Johnson or Kyle Busch or Kurt Busch or Jeff Gordon would win. They watched NASCAR to watch the crashes. Today, as I'm viewing this going, people really watch this? This is entertainment? No wonder people are turned off to our great political system.
Where there were real serious people that were trying to fix those problems.
So you don't believe there's a serious Republican in the country?
No, they're not speaking up. Because if they were, no, because they nominated Donald Trump as the top of the ticket there. So that's not a serious move. If you want to be
Frank, I want to give you the last word on this.
This is a problem.
By the way, Frank doesn't get the last word. They start yelling at poor Frank. But Frank brings up a great point. And I don't know if we can go back to having civil conversations, but let's take a listen.
I understand that you're angry. I feel it.
Yeah, because people like me are the ones that are being persecuted.
Yes, but you...
Now, by the way, how is she being persecuted? She's wearing a cheetah outfit on CNN. She's an articulate, young, African-American woman who has no problem proving her point. I'm going, man, even on my best day, that would be a tough one to handle her because she's very articulate, very opinionated, and she has no problem coming at people. So here poor Frank is. He's trying to be your friend. And maybe you've had this when you're talking to your kid, or maybe you've had this in your life where you're trying to build a consensus.
This behavior that we're doing here, this yelling over each other, is not what the voters want to see. They're tired of the yelling of shows. I'm sorry, because I don't want to get myself kicked off here. They're tired of the yelling, and they want solutions. The number one priority is results. Not looking back, looking ahead. And they say the same thing about other conflicts. They don't want to know who did it. They want to know how you're going to fix it. Stop trying to blame people and start fixing it.
Now, by the way, you could say that for Donald Trump. You could say that for Kamala Harris. You could say that for Minnesota Walz. You could say that for J.D. Vance. Now, we as Republicans, we're always like Charlie Brown. The Democrats are Lucy with the football. Now, poor Luntz here, he's about ready to get shivved, if you will, or punched in the face, whatever verb you want to use, whatever verb you want to use as the analogy here, because he's right. People are tired of the screaming and yelling. And look, I love this show. This show is based on chaos. This show is based on screaming and yelling.
369, the goose drank wine, the monkey chewed tobacco on the streetcar line. The line broke, the monkey got choked. Kevin Miller and all his crazy buddies went to heaven.
Yeah, he tried. He tried. People that listen to conservative talk radio probably shouldn't try to rap, but he tried, just like Frank Luntz tried here on CNN.
Start getting it done now, and that's not what we've been talking about here.
Well, yeah, we could certainly be talking about a lot of really important policy issues, but instead we're talking about false rumors of Haitians doing voodoo, eating cats and dogs.
By the way, you talk to people in Ohio, and they say that is going on. Now, Kevin Miller in a past life, Kevin Miller where he lived for you and no one else. Kevin Miller before he had other obligations, he would have said, Sweet William, pack your bags, bring the Glock. We don't have a Glock. Do we have a squirt gun Glock? Yes. Don't pack that on the plane. Bo, we're going into Springfield, Ohio. We're going to talk to the people. Those days are gone, unfortunately. However, Frank Luntz is right. You want solutions? J.D. Vance is right. Will they ever acknowledge what's happening in Ohio, according to people from Ohio?
That's fair.
That's not our fault.
For being passionate about it either. People are uncomfortable.
That is bad. It is not.
Do you want to make a statement,
yes,
or do you want to make a difference?
Hang on.
I'm doing both. I'm doing both.
Hang on one second,
because
Frank.
we're passionate about it, don't question what people are doing.
By the way, Frank is the one yelling. It's Tara, and Frank's making the point. And we see this in Boise with Mayor McClain. We see this in other places where you rightfully say the people in Meridian should not be paying excessive taxes. And no one on the radio or television calls them out except us, who has the guts to do it, to hold them accountable. And people just go, he's mean, he's controversial, shame, know your name. Lauren McClain, same.
So actually, if somebody does focus groups and polling, I want you to be successful. I'm on your side.
Now, poor Frank, he's trying to kiss the ring. He's bent the knee, but Tara, she ain't buying it.
I'm trying to offer you an alternative, and you can laugh at me.
I mean, it's fine. I don't appreciate being lectured about life experience.
Frank and Tara, I'm gonna go from this point because
to do it effectively.
we had a heated conversation because it's
yeah, that's what they want. Dirty laundry. Don Henley. Look it up. Appreciate you. We'd love to hear from you next. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Why don't you answer the phone, Kevin Miller? We might do that. Remember, coming up today, first hour of Clay and Buck, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see Boise State versus, I was going to say Fresno State, but that's later in the year, Washington State. Here we have it, our own Bulldog, Mark, the watchdog of Eagle, Idaho, with Kevin Miller. Thank you for listening. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Real quick, I know we're running out of time before the hour, but, the Frank guy from that talk show you were saying.
Frank Luntz.
Americans don't care how, who broke it. They want to know how to get it fixed. This is a problem with people's mentality, even on these talk shows, these so-called conservatives. You know what? That's saying everybody's stupid out there. The demon rats break everything, but we don't care. We just want it fixed. Well, why don't you go to the source? It's like taking aspirin constantly or ibuprofen to cover and mask a pain in your body instead of find out why you chronically are having the pain. No, we know who's breaking things in this country. It's the demon rat party. I was just thinking about this. If you think about it, how many people out there know if they have digital TV, they don't have satellite, they don't have cable, you get your ABC, NBC, CBS affiliates, and now you have another leftist Marxist news agency, Scripps, which is on 12-5. So if you're the average person out there who just only knows, instead of knowing how to download free,
Scripps,
where you can get
Scripps, that's Channel 6. They own Channel 6.
Figures, well, they're on 12-5 on the digital. Where I'm going with this, Kevin, is the majority, if not 90% of the stations, I think you might find newsbacks on 22-something, 22- whatever it is, on digital TV. The rest are all mainly propaganda leftist stations. People watch these late-night ones like Colbert or some of the other clowns that are on late night spewing their leftist propaganda, or the morning shows, with the View.
So Mark, what's your point, with all due respect?
Well, my point is that the bombardment and the people who get spoon-fed and will eat the lies up, it just totally blows my mind. People just they get their heads stuck in their behind. They really do. If you watch these shows continually in the morning or late at night, and just don't watch them to analyze and see the lies that they tell you and take it for what it is. Because I had an older sister who's now, she's died. She was an Al Gore lover, all that, and then she saw the light. When I told her, you really need to listen to other stations that put out more conservative and try to compare the rant from the left, which has a majority of the stations on TV. Unless you get satellite cable or you download Pluto, and then you can...
TalkRadio.com, an interesting story concerning the Idaho Vandals, number 4 in the nation in FCS. And remember, coming up, your chance to win tickets to see Boise State versus Washington State during the first hour of Clay and Buck. We'll give you the cue to call. When you hear me go, hey, call in to Clay and Buck, you're going to win those tickets if you're the correct caller. Let's go now international. That's right, we're big ballers. We're going to the Will Osprey of KIDO Talk Radio, Fox News Radio. That is Jonathan Savage, live from London. And good morning.
Good morning. Will Osprey, the aerial assassin, which is kind of apt today, actually, because I'm just watching the news wires come in with the Israeli military trying to take out a senior member of Hezbollah with an airstrike. There's a segue from wrestling into international affairs you didn't expect today.
I was going to say, and between you and Ryan Schmelz, we call it the secret lives of reporters on Fox News Radio, and and I won't destroy the segue by derailing it. We'll go back to that. But speaking of intercontinental ballistic missiles, China looking to test one the first time in decades.
Yeah, that's right. China has test-fired an intercontinental ballistic missile carrying a dummy warhead into the Pacific Ocean. The launch, they say, was routine and part of annual training. But the fact is, Kevin, that this is the first time a test like this has happened in 40 years. not very routine, really. China normally only tests within its borders. We're told it wasn't aimed at any country or target. China says it alerted its neighbours, but Japan said they weren't warned. They, along with Australia and New Zealand, are expressing grave concern.
Well, China's a big dog, and I guess it depends on which neighbors. Maybe they inform the Russians. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe they inform the Solomon Islands or someone like that. Look, this is a neighborhood in the world where there are a lot of tensions. Australia, Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, a really long list of countries who are concerned about China's increased military assertiveness, who are looking for the United States to play a big role in helping keep China at bay. And what China has done, in a week when the UN General Assembly is hearing speeches from just about every world leader there is being seen as something of a message to the US and its allies, showing off their nuclear capabilities and sending a warning, just to say, look, we don't want to get involved in any conflict, but if we have to, this is what we're capable of.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Speaking of international conflicts and our friends Putin and Zelensky saying that he does have a peace plan for Mr. Biden, again, very cringy, in my opinion, watching him tour an arms manufacturing facility in Pennsylvania with the governor there. The Zelensky tour continues. What's the reaction in Russia, if at all, to this?
Well, something that's quite interesting that Volodymyr Zelensky was talking about. He's been talking, of course, about getting Western long-range weapons, using them to attack targets inside Russia. He obviously has an interest in these U.S. missile manufacturing facilities, and he's been asking the American government to let him use their long-range missiles to take out Russian targets. And so far, they've been very much reluctant to do that. Something we heard yesterday from Vladimir Putin, perhaps is Putin's pushback. He's talking about changing his country's nuclear doctrine. Right now, the rules surrounding Russia's use of nuclear weapons are only if it gets attacked by a nuclear power. Vladimir Putin wants to change it to if it's attacked by a country which is backed by a nuclear power. Ukraine, of course, backed by the United States.
Yeah, and again, for a lot of us, especially, I suppose, in the Western United States, maybe we're not as well-versed on European history, but we could just go back to the great empires in the 1900s, the Ottoman Empire, obviously the Tsar, the Bolsheviks, Great Britain, France, obviously. And again, this is an off-the-wall question from an off-the-wall host, from an off-the-wall state, but what is that like to live in that, sir, where you have just this great, immense history? We're not talking 50 years, 100 years, but really going back centuries when you're talking about Europe and the conflicts that are going on there.
Yeah, you're surrounded by it. You don't have to go very far to feel it and see the remnants of it. You don't have to travel very far. Within a morning, I could be standing on a battlefield in Northern Europe where countless thousands of young men died in the First or, of course, Second World War. You can travel to European cities which you think, well, where are all the old buildings? And you realize that they were bombed during World War II. And then you can travel down the Danube or the Rhine and visit these great old capitals, the Budapests and Pragues, Viennas, and see the seats of these empires, just as you described. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to turn into the tourism representative for the European Union, but I would invite anyone from Idaho to come to Europe and spend just a couple of weeks here and just experience all this for yourselves, because it can be absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. Finally, have you watched the Back to the Secret Lives of Fox News radio reporters? Have you started the Netflix series on Mr. McMahon?
Yeah, you know what? I've been expecting you to ask me about this, and that is why I have been binge watching it. I have watched the first 5 of the 6 episodes already.
I'm so predictable.
Don't ask me where I get the time to do that, because my boss might be listening.
No.
But,
okay.
It's been a really, really interesting. I mean, it's an interesting viewing. You don't hear Vince McMahon talk about himself very much. very controversial character. A lot of the stories, if you've been following wrestling quite closely, you will have heard before. You will know what they're talking about. But to see Vince McMahon talk about it, especially in the light of all the accusations and allegations that he's faced in recent years, it's an interesting perspective.
Well, case in point, if Netflix or a documentary crew ever wants to do something on you, chances are you should bail, because that series started filming right before the Wall Street Journal really blew up Vince McMahon, and you can tell he's very uncomfortable. By the way, you're up 5-1 on Mr. Schmelz, who's only got through maybe halfway through the first one. Quickly, because I'm being very selfish here this morning, how did my boy Bret Hart come off?
Bret Hart has an enormous amount of antipathy for Vince McMahon. He came off as pretty rational, level-headed, certainly one of the more sane people in the wrestling community, I would say. But I'm quite pro Bret, so maybe I'm quite biased.
You always have a welcome home in the pro Bret Hart community. Jonathan Savage, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's go to our great friend, David DeHaas.
Paid for by Living Waters Wellness Center.
And he's going to tell us what's going on this Sunday on his show at 9. Good morning, sir.
Joy, sir. Joy. The theme of after Kamala Ramos, we'll all feel the joy. Well, I'm afraid to tell listeners out there that that's not real joy. Real joy is when you have a client like I did last week who got rid of the floaters in his eyes. Real joy is when he called yesterday and said, David, things have gotten even better. He said, how's that? He says, well, I'm now shooting, my golf is now in the 70s. I've dropped it over 6 points per round. And he says, I went to my massage therapist, and she's working on my muscles, and she says, what did you do? It's totally different. Your muscles are much better than they used to be. Joy is getting your health, because the number one wealth is health. So Sunday, Kevin, we're going to talk about that. We're about how to get the joy back in your life.
I think we all need a lot of joy, holistically speaking. We do.
Well, we do. A lot of angst out there right now.
Yeah.
And you got to calm in all the time. So that's what we do. Real joy at Living Waters Wellness Center. And it's fun to watch people get their health miracles. And we've got a lot of those joyful videos on our website at livingwaterscleanse.com. And Sunday at 9 a.m., we're going to bring you some more joy, more education, so you can heal your body naturally and get rid of the medications and live your best life.
Well, we always appreciate that. Now, are we hearing from you next hour as well? We always like to do these on the fly. What do you want to do, sir? Or tomorrow? Or
yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow's good. Yeah.
Well, my man.
Tomorrow I'll be in one of the most joyful counties, Idaho County. I'll be up there tomorrow.
What are you doing up there?
Well, my dad passed away a couple weeks ago, and we're celebrating his 91 years on Earth and all the wonderful things he did.
Oh, we're sorry to hear about that, sir.
Well, he got 15 more years than the doctors told him he would get. He had prostate cancer years ago, and he came to Living Waters and started cleansing. He did cleansings every year. PSA number went from 38 to 0.37, but his expiration date finally passed on Labor Day. He had a pretty cool life, amazing man.
Wow, he had a good son.
It's interesting, Kevin. Only 22,000 people in the world are over the age of 90. Did you know that?
No. Is that building at all? Are there more people over 90 than ever before, do you think?
Well, I don't know about that, but I think half of them live in Idaho County. I went to a reunion August 4th, and on my dad's side, and 25 people were there, and 5 of us were over the age of 90. Well, I'm not over 90, but...
Well, you're just a spring chicken.
Over the age of 90. Well, you know what? I've got 66 years of look back on my good dad's life, and he was a pretty amazing man.
As are you, Mr. DeHaas. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you this Sunday, 9 a.m. on KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you, sir.
You got it. Have a blessed week.
Our great friend, David DeHaas. Thank you, sir.
Paid for by Living Waters Wellness Center.
Thank you, Bo. Phone number's here, 580-5436. Paulie, hang on. Very quick break. Kevin Miller. Washington State this weekend in Boise. Paulie joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Paulie.
Good morning, Joe. How are you, sir?
Not bad, all things considered. And you?
Oh, okay. Just got out of a long meeting. It was thoughtful, concise, and
but it was long.
Well, yeah, a little longer than I expected to because I had to clean up after it was over and done with too. So, anyway, enough of my whining. So, did you hear about the new word that Kami Law learned yesterday?
No.
Oh, yeah. Holistic.
Oh.
She used holistic 3 different times, I think, in a matter of 5 minutes.
No, really?
Everything's going to be holistic now. Where you live, where you breathe, where you get water, that type of stuff. Yeah. I think the only thing that she's got as far as holistic is concerned is her and Joe's Bidenomics drilled holes in our wallets and our pocketbooks. None of the statistics, just holes. It makes it really hard to even stomach a person when they constantly leave out half truths, and they just want to give just enough to you to make you want to support them, like these suckers that are talking about, giving the Trump man problems for the last 6 years anyway, about being Trump supporters. But how in the heck can you support somebody that's a Marxist in a capitalistic country? I don't get it. I mean, somebody's smoking some really good stuff from Jamaica, and I think it's Kamala for one, but I think she's planning it in the other kids too. There's just certain things that I don't appreciate, and one is being lied to by somebody that's in power that could be doing something good for the country, but it's obvious that they have other plans. Kevin, you do one commercial. I don't know if it's a commercial or it's a spot. Anyway, you mentioned that law enforcement's not going to bend or break under the weight of marijuana. We don't need it in this state, and we don't want it in this state, and we don't want the other drugs that come along with it. That's one of the best things I think I've ever heard. And just keep up the good work, Kevin. I'm not going to criticize you with anything. I'll give you a pat on the back more than anything else. That's enough out of me.
Thank you, Paulie, and a pat on the back right back to you, sir.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Remember, weekday mornings, 5 to 10, KIDO Talk Radio's Kevin Miller Show. Quickly, let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, traffic now really backed up on Eagle Road because of an accident at the top of the off-ramp, the Eagle off-ramp. So be aware that they're diverting traffic around. Also at 33, have an accident working on the freeway as well. Treasure Valley Coffee is celebrating 40 years of serving the southern Idaho business community with the latest coffee equipment and over 80 varieties of coffee. They now offer bar and restaurant supplies. Check out tvcoffee.com. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Appreciate that, Dave. Let's go to the phones. And a friend of law enforcement, indeed, our friend Lee Joe joins us on KIDO Talk Radio.
Actually, I am indeed a friend of law enforcement. I am not a fan of tyrants dressed up in uniform, but I called about another subject. And your first friend mentioned it. This campaign method that Democrats have of just hiding the candidate and then the media does the talking. And we have experienced that in Boise. From a little bit from both sides, but
Joe Biden.
When's the last time she had a public appearance, made a public statement, what have you, that wasn't some orchestrated, screened question and answer, best light media deal that?
Look, the mayor has the media because they're all afraid of the mayor. They all want to be her buddies. They all want to hire her or bring her around, or they want access. That's all they want. So what they do is
Joe Biden.
They kiss up to her. The lady has never had a news conference that I know of without the police backing her up. Let's go back to the major mistake she made with the police department when she accused them all of being a racist. Remember that? Remember that? Remember the what is it, $600,000-700,000 they blew on the Washington attorney that found out, nope, no racism here.
Well, it's the same exact thing with Kamala. The only reason she opens her mouth is to put her foot in it. You know, she just doesn't have a clue. She runs around pretending like, making our 15-minute city here and changing things so that the builders can't build. And what are we gonna do about this? You know, all the Democrat candidates are the same way in these legislative races, like here in 16. You can't even get a hold of those Democrats and say, hey, you want to debate or discuss or do anything? They're just going to sit back, not engage. The media is going to do their bidding, push their agendas, and they'll get elected in these Democrat districts. You know, there is no interaction. There's no how do you find out who the candidate is? Well, you look at their website. Yeah, that's great, fine and dandy, except for, like I said, when you see them in public, it's a whole different thing. They're disasters. They're complete disasters. They're illogical disasters. And
well, then why in the world would they expose themselves to somebody like you?
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. That's exactly it. But that's, Kamala's doing the same thing. They've figured out it works with Joe Biden. Just shut the candidate down and start the spew, start the propaganda, and it'll work this time. And it works in Boise great. Kamala and McLean speak the same language. And they're just as qualified as each other, to be president. Absolutely no real executive experience and word salad where they just believe they're waxing poetic and have these deep insights and deep thoughts. And all it is drivel, absolute drivel. And when are the American people going to wake up? When is Boise going to wake up? Quick point, too, Russia changes their nuclear engagement. I woke up on Sunday and I saw what looked like a nuclear explosion in my Telegram feed, and it turned out to be an ammo dump in Russia that had exploded, and kiloton-wise, it was about the same as a nuclear bomb. But I'm waiting for that day. I'm hoping that day doesn't come, but we're pushing hard to make it happen, where my news feed isn't nuclear bomb blast after nuclear bomb blast after nuclear bomb blast. It's terrifying who's running this show and how incompetent they are. And
well, I don't think that anybody, and one thing of the many things I'll say about you is I don't think anybody has any guts anymore, because we've all become sissified. And look, not to be a proponent of men, but I am. Take a look at how men have been replaced on television, how men have been replaced on politics, how men have been replaced in our society today. And the people that are hired, are they really men? And let's just call it out. When you take a look at local media, local television, local politicians, where are the men? Who's running the city of Boise? It's not a man. Oh, you can't say that. No, that's being accurate. It's not demeaning anybody. It's not saying anything else. We've all become feminized. We've all become feminized.
And that's the culture. Why are we looking at characters on television shows where there should be a strong leading man, and instead we've got two trannies doing whatever they do, and that's supposed to be love and agenda, and what's that one show that says it's a family with that Colombian gal, and anyway.
Modern Family.
Modern Family. Yeah, that's the Modern Family, and you can't question that that's the Modern Family. That we're just covered in gays from one end to the other, and that we should be pushed, that it's all 100% normal. Okay, it's 100% normal for maybe 1% of the population, and now we have to push that and make sure that everybody knows that you should actually be gay or at some point have a gay moment in your life.
Well, it's okay to look. Let's go back to the city of Boise. We still have the pride flags up.
Yes, we do, and they're sponsored by the neighborhood association, which gets a grant from the city of Boise.
I'm just talking about the city itself. When you go down, any of the streets, in and out of the city. Number one, number two, and I'm going, if we hadn't called her out, we still wouldn't have a 4th of July parade. So, say what you want about expression and everything else, but you're not giving equal time to America? What kind of place is this?
Of course she's not. She made, like I said, she's made Facebook posts where she aggrandized the Haymarket riot, which was the first communist riot in America, which is the celebration point of the communists in Russia for the beginning of the Russian Revolution. She celebrates it. Why would you celebrate the 4th of July when you've got May Day? Why? I don't get it. She is as bad as you imagine, or worse. Period. End of statement.
And again, here we are, you and I, the watchers on the wall. Thank you very much. Lee Joe joining us now, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We go to the mayor of Nampa, Debbie Kling, who joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Hey, I don't usually get to listen to you at this time of day, but I was just listening to your conversation about men.
Yes.
And I just wanted to tell you that I fully agree. We need men that are not feminized, men that will lead, and I fully agree with you. I am a woman leading the city of Nampa as mayor, I believe, because God put me there. However, I totally support your conversation, and we need men to stand up and to lead. So I just wanted to let you know that I support those comments.
Mayor Kling, we always support you, and we appreciate you, ma'am. Thank you for listening.
Well, and I tell you, the concern over our country is so real. I don't know if we can win this election. It's very concerning. But, part of the problem is that we have a generation that does not know American history. We don't have discerning thinkers that can see through the falsity of what's happening, especially in the media. We haven't learned how to ask good questions and really get underneath the rhetoric to the truth. And that's important. And that's what we need to teach this next generation and our kids. So it's a little scary where we are, but we have work to do. We need to lean into our families. We need to be teaching our kids how to think, how to ask questions, and we need to teach them American history so that they truly understand the foundation of this nation and our Constitution. But thank you for what you do on your radio station. It's appreciated.
Thank you, Mayor Kling. You have a blessed day.
Thank you. You too.
We appreciate Mayor Kling and her great leadership in Nampa. Don't forget our friends at Beacon Plumbing. They say stop freaking, call Beacon today.
When everybody was making a big deal about the don't Californicate my Idaho sign.
Yes.
I think that's not strong enough. I think we need to call it don't fornicate my Idaho because it's more applicable. And let me use one of your articles as an example of why I believe that. You have an article out there about how Gavin Newsom wants to do more gun control in the name of animal violence or whatever, and, a couple other things. Kevin, I cannot count the number of times a firearm has saved me from getting bit or attacked by a dog. My dad shot one that was coming towards me very aggressively. I would have been bit. I've been treed by the Nazi and Menand's dogs multiple times and shot a couple of them. I've actually shot an aggressive dog that was bit my oldest son and then came into my yard and was aggressively chasing my children. I could go on and on and on, let alone protecting my dad's cattle from said dogs that are chasing them in below temperatures, 40 below, 30 below, even colder with the wind chill. So, that's one of the reasons I don't like Gavin Newsom's gun control. It's gun violence. I've been bit by dogs, Kevin, because I didn't have a gun. I've had to jump up on cars because my neighbor had a pit bull that got out that was very aggressive, and if I hadn't have jumped on that car, I would have been bit. So, there's a lot of problems with people getting attacked by wild mountain lions in California and getting bit by animals in California. So I don't have a problem, saying animal violence. Let's just define when the animal violence is against humans and you disarm me and I get bit. That's why I don't like commie fornicators, because they fornicate my laws here in Idaho so I can protect myself, my family, my business. It'd be like putting a hacker inside a data center and then being surprised when something happens to all the servers. Now,
the proverbial fox, the fox in the hen house, right?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think some stupid kid should be shooting your dog in the back of your subdivision. That needs to be prosecuted. But if we can't define these things, I don't keep your commie fornication away from me. And Kevin, I did a little research, another subject. Out of all the governors in Idaho, guess how many have been born and raised in Idaho?
5.
Close! 4. And Lee Joe said it was 5 generations. I never said you had to be 5 generations. I just said the same thing the President of the United States has to be. You have to be born and raised in the United States. I didn't say you had to be here for 5 generations, Lee Joe. Oh, I said it right. Yeah, I did. I got his name right. Sorry. I've got a little bit of brain problems from my curse, so I get things mixed up. It's not personal, Lee Joe.
It's okay. We're very confused here, so you're in good company. All I have to say to you is I like it when you call him Leroy. I just like the name Leroy, but anyway.
Well, my brother, who served a mission for my church, had a companion named Leroy, and I really like the guy. So I'm actually giving him a compliment when I get him mixed up with that guy. It's not, anything that, and it's still spelled Clicker, because when he gave me that name, he did not specify. So I spelled it that way, Lee Joe. So, I've already, put it on a couple Google things and incorporated it in a few things. So I'm sorry you missed it because you didn't specify that to begin with. But yeah, I think we need to upgrade those signs. Don't commie fornicate my Idaho. In fact, don't commie fornicate my United States. How's that sound? You have a good day, Kevin.
Thank you, Brian. Concerned in Emmett with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Yeah, I liked Mayor Klain's comments on top of the other comments. Just some good people out there. I ponder the deal. How many countries in this world, communist countries and socialist countries, have "In God We Trust" in their constitutions or the rules to anything? And then you look at the situation of what is the most powerful country on earth, right now, and then you look at Israel, and it's so obvious that one nation under God is what has drove this nation to the power that they had at one time. And as we slowly walk away from it, I'm really, that's what's going on right here. We don't teach anything about God anymore in our schools or anything. So our country's being, taken away from that aspect. We're just joining into the world. The consequences, we teach, the deal on the kids that, the fathers that are not standing up for what is right and not showing the kids respect. This is what happens when you have kids, filming a cop coming at you and being arrogant about that, and then they get hurt in the situation and they wonder, because the respect in this country has gone out the door because there is no consequences, because we don't teach people that God is in control of us human people, and there is a judgment day. And that's what held us to a standard before. It's like, so even if I'm doing something wrong, God's watching. And we held that standard. And we seem to have lost that philosophy in this country totally together, that this is, there is no consequences. Everybody's entitled, and there's no repercussion to anything we do anymore. And people have these, what they call love and stuff, they're just confused. But we need to get back to God in this country by far, and that's what the biggest problem is. It's the biggest elephant in the room right now. Everything we do here is not one nation under God. I don't even know how we can even say that anymore when we allow abortions and we allow gay marriages and all these things that God condemns. And it's not the sin that he condemns. It's the continual being in that. That's the problem. I don't want to get preachy, but, this is the problem with this country. We're walking away from that one nation under God. We've pushed him out of our society, and then we're going to wonder where we're going to be at without God, and it's not going to be good. So we just pray for this country, pray for the election, and here again, even if Trump is not a Christian or doesn't believe in God, that's one thing, but he's still a good leader, and he needs, and he's proven himself to be a good leader, and I hope that people, especially Christians, get out there and vote for Trump. And I just don't understand either. Just carry on a little bit. California, it's like all these states that are liberal. Why do they continue if they don't like it? Their country, their state is going to hell in a handbasket in California, but they continue to vote the same people in. It's just it's insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I don't understand why then people, and then they come here to our place and praise California. I don't get it. But love your show, Kevin. It's just there's so many topics that you guys hit on, and it's just awesome that we have a place to vent with you and place to congregate. So
well, not only that, but and thank you, concern, but really to spur change. The idea the left wants us to think that our way of life is going away. Our way of life is this, that, and the other. And you're like, no, dude, we are the norm. We are the standard.
Yes, that's it. The United States used to be the standard. Yeah. It always cracks me up when Camilla says, we don't want to go back, we want to go forward. It's like, no, I think we need to go back because things were much better in the 50s and 60s, than they are right now. We're getting further away. We don't want to go, we want to go back to our roots, not necessarily, skipping the few things that we had to correct, but we need to stay there where our country was strong. Not go forward into the global community and let the global community rule us. So, but anyways, Kevin, love your show. Just I'll keep on listening, and you're doing a great job out there, and bless it.
We love you. Thank you, concern. God bless you as well. Let's go to Lucille, who joins us now with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Lucille.
Good morning, Kevin. I just want to echo the mayor of Nampa, the lovely lady who said we need more men. Yes, we do. Enough with women, and I'm a woman. And it's not that I'm anti-woman, Kevin. It's just that I am not one of those people who just, oh, yes, I want a woman president. What kind? Never mind, as long as she's a woman. Okay, that is stupid, childish, and irresponsible. If we're going to have a woman president, by all means, but choose correctly. Put one that will make women proud, not ashamed like Kamala makes me. I mean, putting a stupid, cackling idiot who can't even answer a question because she can't, because of her record, and because she can't string a sentence together. I don't want that to be a woman president, Kevin. I want a good, intelligent, strong woman to be president. If that's what you have to offer, wonderful. So be it, But just putting a woman in power because some women want to be in power because I don't know, they want to get back to the house, but I don't know what their problem is. But that's not the kind of thing I want. If you're going to give me a Margaret Thatcher, by all means. But Kamala Harris, no, thank you. I'll wait for the next offer. And we need more men, Kevin. We do. We need more father figures. We need more men around, that was the reason why God created both genders, because they complement each other. And we definitely need more men, like there still are, I hope, and like our fathers were, like our uncles or whatever, the kind of men that you and I grew up with. We need more of those, definitely.
Well, we need to encourage men, and we need to have strong men, and it's, all of a sudden, if you have a strong man television show, what do we have next? Well, let's water it down. Let's have a strong this, that, and the other. And the man is always the weakest. You'll love this. And it kind of hit me the other day. One of I was watching this thing on HBO called Game of Thrones. And it first starts off with a strong king. And it starts with all these warriors. And at the end of it, the women are running everything. And you're thinking to yourself, we are brainwashing year after year, generation after generation of men that they're second-class citizens.
Exactly. And nobody should be a second-class citizen in their own country. I don't care what color they are. I don't care, And, it's not that I want to banish gays or anything. I want everybody to have the same rights and the same respect. But that does not mean that you have to demonize one group in order to elevate the other. I don't know why they think that the best way to give women's rights is to demonize heterosexual men. I don't understand why, in order to elevate black people, you have to demonize white people. That's so stupid. Common sense is dead, Kevin. We have to resuscitate it.
Well, no, I agree with you, and maybe you'll laugh at me at this one. I think it's time to bring back the dress, and not men wearing dresses. Men should not be wearing dresses.
Absolutely, and I always wear pants. My problem is I never find anything that is my size because I'm so small, and everything. I don't know. People think that small women don't exist anymore, but anyway, whatever. But yes. We have to bring
I have to tell you something.
Woman back.
Hold on, I got to tell you something. I used to date a woman in college that would buy the kids' stuff. She was that small.
I've done that. I've been known to do that. Definitely. Sometimes I buy things in juveniles. I used to be able to do that, but now everything is torn and it's hideous and it's ugly. But yeah, I remember one time that my sister and I went on a trip to Europe, and we had to stop in Germany because I don't know what happened to the plane, and we needed warm clothes because, of course, Germany was cold, and I had to go into the junior section because there was nothing for my size.
That's funny.
But yeah, you're right, Kevin. We need more feminine women and more masculine men, and I'm all for that. Bring it back, please. Bring it back. Bring common sense back. We've had enough stupidity. Bring common sense back. I'm sick and tired of women, of capricious people. No, I want this and I want that, and they always bring the anyway. But bring it back, Kevin. We need it badly.
Lucille, thank you for the call. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. More coming up. Bring back men and bring back the dresses. Only with Kevin Miller.
How you doing, little buddy?
Trying to get littler and littler, but it ain't working for me, big buddy. And you?
Oh, pretty good. Anytime I'm listening to you guys, hey, I'm gonna tell a little story here, and then I'm gonna end it, and you're gonna help me out. It's a Kevin Miller phrase. I'm gonna say the first three words, and you'll be able to finish up with the last three words on cue.
Let's hope I know myself. Yes, please.
Okay, a little story about the women's taking over, and this has been going on for a pretty good while around here. This is a little story before your times.
Sure.
Okay, back in the day, Carolyn Hawley was the top matriarch, 5 o'clock news. Okay, Carolyn Hawley wearing all the Channel 7 women. They would go into the wardrobe room and put on these big old goofy, look like plastic beads, like big old plastic pearls around their neck. So she'd be doing the Channel 5 news, and then most people, this is so long back, that Mark Johnson was the sports guy. So they wanted to do a shift, and let Carolyn Hawley go home and have time with her family and all that around 5 o'clock. and then Mark Johnson's being promoted to the 5 o'clock news. And so they have a little ceremony, and they do the switch and what have you. And I forget if it was like a month later or, a few weeks later or something. Mark Johnson's supposed to be doing the news and all this. And there happens to be a big old fire happening out in Eagle up on the ridge line. That's, the wind's blowing and the fire's going to potentially get to the houses and what have you. Whole bunch of fire trucks going out that way. And so it's Mark Johnson's hour, but it's such a big story. Channel News calls up Carolyn Hawley to come back on and do the story. And she comes back in at the 5 o'clock to do the story, and Mark Johnson's sitting right next to her. And he's got his mouth shut, and he's just fuming. He's got his eyes are just red. There's smoke coming out of his ears and his nose, like, I can handle this. But no, Carolyn Hawley's there with a smiling face telling the fire story over in Eagle and all. And, they had handed the steering wheel over to him. And then, boom, Carolyn Hawley comes in and just bumps him right out of the way. He starts driving the bus. And at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, was the juice
worth the squeeze?
That's right. Have a nice day.
Thank you. I was a little worried. Jim and Star, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Whoop, 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 whoop. McLean alert. Just wanted to let you know, I know a guy.
Joe Biden.
That used to do what you do every day, but just on the weekends. And he got real critical about that mayor and how seriously, that she is a full-blown Marxist. And boy, oh boy, the heat came from that department, let me tell you.
Yeah, I think that guy worked for the pretend people.
Yep, you're right. That's the guy. And I just, looking out for you.
Thank you.
I just, it's one of those things where, like, I think a lot of people know who she is and they know what she's about. But man, she doesn't want anybody to have anything to say against her. And if you do, she gets the dogs on you.
What was that like for that guy to have the dogs on him?
It was a strange thing. It was one of those deals where, hey, this is our mayor, and you shouldn't be talking this way about her. And I'm like, my response is this: I only say what I read that her and her handlers put out.
Now,
like the day she put out.
Do you have a minute? Because can you hold on?
Yeah, sure.
All right, it's about to get dangerous. In talk radio, and has a cautionary tale for all of us that if you hold people accountable, then they get you. Is that the juxt of the position, Jim?
Yeah, I know a guy who knew somebody that happened to, and it's a weird thing when you feel the pressure and the powers that be of a woman, or she could be a man. I'm not saying it's a thing about a woman. Don't get me wrong. It could be any individual that comes into our Treasure Valley that sticks out like a sore thumb, that doesn't fit into what we believe, what we want, the desires that we have as Idahoans, and then prints out this 14-page document of what her mission statement is, and this guy that knows another guy called it McLoser's Communist Manifesto. Oof. And in those documents that were written by her and her staff, it talked about the things that they want to provide, free health care for all the immigrants and illegals that are here, free, Wi-Fi, free housing, education, medical, everything, all the things that you and I and everybody else have to pay for with our hard-earned dollars. And just by those things being said over the air that were on her documents, it's a massive war that starts, and then all of a sudden you start getting the finger pushed on you.
Well, you know what I love? You know what I love about radio is that everybody goes, "Oh, no one listens to radio," and all sorts of things. And yeah, that is it's. They try to marginalize it until it hits close to home, until you tell the truth. It's so ironic to me because radio, like everything else, is fighting for its existence, and then all of a sudden, boom, you have powerful people trying to shut you down.
It's crazy, and I know you've felt the heat in other markets you've worked in, and you've had the pressures come on you. And what's really, really sad, and I hope I live long enough to see this change, and I hope that you see it too, is when you can speak something that's the truth, and you can say it with authority and integrity, and not be punished for it. I hope those days come back. And if I can make one more comment.
Well, you have the floor.
Well, awesome. I had a vision today when I first tuned into you. And by the way, listeners, you heard Lucille. She likes men. She wants to see more men. So who knows? That might be code for she's single and she's looking for a boyfriend. I'm just saying. But
now, hold on. She's not single.
What?
And she's not looking for a boyfriend.
Not?
No.
Oh, 10-4. Okay, I backed that up. I didn't know she was on that silver single website or something, you know. But
yes.
I digress.
The magic of Jim from Star, yes.
I vision you and the way that your show rolls. You're sitting back like Boss from, what was it, Charlie's Angels, right? Nobody really sees you. Charlie, right. Nobody really sees you, but you've got the biggest Rolodex. And for those under 45 years old, they don't know what we're talking about. But you've got the biggest Rolodex on this desk. And you're just clicking each time to a new card, and you're calling up, Bob. You're calling up Concern. You're calling up Lee Joe. You're calling up Pat from Middleton, Jim from Star. And it's like, what a perfect a job you have. I mean, how could it get much better than that?
Yeah, who has it better than us?
You got a great one, man. And here's the thing: just be careful with the weirdos, because we can't afford to lose your voice, keeping everybody educated on what's really going on. If your voice goes away here, it's going to be trouble. And with that said, have a great day, buddy.
Thank you, Jim from Star, with a cautionary tale of conservatism and what happens when the libs get you.
Did Kamala Harris just go on television and say the American dream is gone?
Well, it was really hard, Jesse, to understand what she said, because I don't speak drunk Hallmark, and I really don't think that most of Americans do either. We live in, real meat space. We live in the world of doubled grocery bills and doubled energy bills, and things are expensive because of her administration. I mean, when she says forward, what do you mean with her? Like, still with her? She's in office right now. She's part of this administration. Honestly, when I hear her talk, and I feel like I'm being generous with this evaluation, Jesse, when I hear Kamala Harris talk about jobs or creating an opportunity economy, which is a stupid thing to say because the government takes opportunity, the more involved it is. The economy already has opportunity by way of private sector. But when I hear her speak, I feel like I'm listening to a freshman Marxist collegian who has yet to take an econ class, sit here and try to dictate to people who have had to make payroll, who have had to be the first people to show up and the last people to leave, what it is to run a business. And I don't think that's going to play well with voters.
She's never run a business. She hasn't been successful financially. Her husband hasn't either.
There we have it. Jesse Waters from Fox News. Remember, when you hear Fox News on the radio, you're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Dan Lash, nationally syndicated talk show host and one of the brightest people you'll ever meet in your life, talking about the reaction to the Kamala Harris speech where she's saying, I don't speak drunk Hallmark. And there's other issues going on Capitol Hill. We're going to get to that in a moment. However, Let's go to Grant Cardone. Many people may know Grant Cardone. He's the guy that's always selling his infomercials. And it's interesting, you have Mark Cuban, who's on Shark Tank. Mark Cuban, who used to own the Dallas Mavericks. Now he owns a minority share of the Dallas Mavericks. And other people, saying that Kamala's place is great and everything else. And affordable housing is such a crisis. I look at a lot of folks and apartments are going up. And, one time in Idaho, apartments were cheap, were affordable. Not so much anymore. Even if you drive, how do you really pick your poison? Do you live close to everything so you have no gas bills? Do you drive out in the hinterlands, which Kevin Miller has always done, and then you pay more for gasoline? They get you either way, but this is a good sign for us because you have business people that have made a lot of money. Now, Grant Cardone's linked to Idaho, which is very, very, very strong. He did a couple of things with Russell Brunson of ClickFunnels fame. And if you don't know what ClickFunnels are, it's a software program, very, very big company here out in Eagle by Holy Apostles Church. You can just see their little thing next to the preschool. And Grant Cardone is not a political guy. He's a guy that has funded his own, broadcast, how to make money with real estate. He's one of those guys, and he's been very successful, written several books that I have bought that I haven't read. However, Grant Cardone was asked about this on the Fox Business Channel concerning, hey, wouldn't it be great if everybody could get $25,000 for a house?
I want to talk about Kamala Harris's economic plan. You've got a tweet out there saying that Harris is either financially illiterate, incompetent, or she believes her voters are. You really don't like her plan, do you, Grant?
It's a heck of a way to phrase a question.
No, because I know it won't work, okay? She's going to kill housing, okay? Like I don't know why I guess I understand why she's not giving people like you a moment to ask her a question. Why would you want to build 3 million homes when you know you're 4.2 million homes short? Why would you want to give a $25,000 first-time tax credit or buyer's credit when you know that's going to inflate housing? Okay, mortgage applications had a spike this week, and we're still lower than 2000, 2008, 2010, literally the lowest levels in 24 years of mortgage applications. The housing market is getting slaughtered, and nobody's talking about it. And if she thinks 25,000...
Yeah, let's start with that. The housing market is getting slaughtered, and rightly or wrongly, thankfully, we live in a state in Idaho where people are still buying homes, despite the excessive interest rates, despite everything else. It's crazy when you think about it. 10 years ago, 5% interest rate on a home was great, but then we had the false flag of the lowered rates and 3%, 2%, and people were buying and selling like it was Wheel of Fortune. And today it's 6.5%, 7%. Still not bad compared to, if you go back in history, what was happening in the old days of Dave Petzo and Kevin Miller. Interest rates were 20, 14, maybe even 20%. So the money has gotten more affordable. However, still, you're looking at affordable homes. And, what do you do? Now, in Idaho, they have a great program for first-time home buyers. It's, if you don't want to spend all your money on the down payment, you can have a program where it's a little down payment, lower interest rates, but you have to, have a good job and have a good labor history and everything else. It helps people get started. It's not a handout, it's a hand up. And it's a really great program. Now, I don't know if you could do something like that nationally, but we've come to a state, instead of worrying about neighborhoods and communities, where it's all about if I've got mine, if I've got my big SUV, if I've got my EV vehicle. We don't make contact with our neighbors. Do you have a good relationship with your neighbors? Do you even know your neighbors? Idaho is probably the exception to the rule. Now, for me, for the nature of my job, I'm trying to think of all my neighbors. You would say hi to them, but it wasn't like, hey, let's go over. I live in a great neighborhood. I'm very blessed by it. My neighbors understand that, sometimes I talk, sometimes I don't. On the other hand, you know everybody's name. And there's a collective interest in everybody doing well. Not communism, but making sure that everyone has an opportunity. Today we've become, it's either you're a socialist and you want to give everything away, or you're an unbridled capitalist and you want everything for yourself and the heck with everybody else. Think about that for a moment. By the way, speaking of the economy, how about your old car? Kevin and I That thing is just being held together by bubble gum. Now is the time to trade in your old car for a new car this weekend during Team's Trade-a-thon Marathon at the old Kmart building. Now, you hear me talking about wrestling and everything else. These guys are all in. They are intense at Team Mazda. Buy with just your trade as the down payment, no cash needed. They're at the old Kmart. That's right. Right there on Karcher, slinging steel, doing their very best to give you the best deals and the best interest rates because they don't want to do the bait and switch at Team Mazda. They want to build a relationship. I know everybody says that, but they actually follow those footsteps. Team Mazda will give you 130% of book value for your trade at a minimum of $2,000 if it's push, pull, drag, or clunker, and no car payments until February 2025. Now, what happens? What can you? You can buy a new Mazda, buy a better-owned pre-owned car with just your trade as the down payment, no cash down. And if you're still making payments on your current vehicle, Team will pay off your current loan or lease. Team's interest rates on new Mazdas are as low as 0% this weekend, and it's the last weekend of the month, so Aaron and Joel and the team at Team Mazda are motivated to give you the end-of-month discounts and deals. 4 days only. Thursday through Sunday. Team's Trade-a-thon Marathon, where all you need to buy a new car is your trade. No cash down. Look for the Big Tent at the corner of Karcher and the Boulevard and the parking lot at the old Kmart behind Sherry's in Nampa. Go out and have a good time and get a great deal from our friends at Team Mazda. Please tell them Kevin Miller sent you. You know, back to Grant Cardone reviewing the economy here and the principles of the current vice president that wants to be the president.
$1,000 is going to somehow relieve the system. She's crazy. So she's either lying to the public or worse, she doesn't know what she's talking about or her team doesn't. Now, I know Mark Cuban's a huge fan of hers right now. He's out pimping her like every minute of every day. But and Mark knows a lot about a lot of things, but housing is not going to get fixed because she promises to build 3 million homes. She doesn't even know what it would cost, how long it would take, who would build them, who would get the homes. By the way, at 6% interest, you can't afford a loan anyway because the interest alone is $2,000 a month.
Grant Cardone.
Boy, very hard-hitting facts here that a lot of people in our state could really learn from. Think about that. And if you didn't get a chance to catch her, she's all about price controls, which isn't that communism?
You said you want to take this on by going after those who engage in price gouging. Yeah. But as somebody who supports free markets, who's a capitalist, how do you go after price gouging without implementing price controls? Because once we get in this zone, people start to get worried and they say, I don't know what she stands for.
Yeah, we don't know what she stands for, which is funny because if you take a look at things, and I guess the biggest example of this would be the old phone system. Remember? AT&T, Pacific Bell. Do you remember Pacific Bell? Or Southern Bell, or Penn Bell, Ohio Bell, New England Bell. I probably forgot another Bell, Southwestern Bell. The Bell system. And the Bell company got too big, so they broke them up, and it was AT&T, and then it became Cellular or Verizon or whatever. And they just all reformulated again to get bigger again. But you want to talk about price controls, maybe you should go after Apple. Maybe you should go after Microsoft. Maybe it's time to go after car dealerships. Let's put price controls that in America today, you could buy a car for $10,000. We're going to put price controls on. Price controls. We're going to make sure that everything is fair and equitable because it's all about equity, is it not? It's all about equity. So we're going to put price controls on meat. All of a sudden, here's another story that many people aren't talking about, and it really impacts the folks in Idaho. And like I said, it's one of those things that I've put on my to-do list. One of those is to take a look at the serious implications of the upcoming beef crisis. Think about 10 years ago. Were you better off then than you are now? Yes, we had Mr. Wonderful, Barack Obama.
Thanks, Obama.
But in America, you could go to a hospital. In America, you could buy a piece of meat. We didn't have supply chain issues. We didn't have the challenges that we have today. Today, for some people, it's 6 months to get to see the doctor. And even then, the doctor's so overworked, we've turned a medical facility, a hospital, into a factory where we're churning out people day in and day out. I can tell you this, don't tell anybody, but for the past 2 weeks, I've had a heart monitor on. Now you're going to go, Kevin Miller, you're scaring me on that. No, I have a heart monitor on. And the reason why I have a heart monitor on is I struggle with high blood pressure. I believe that's a genetic thing. It doesn't excuse it, and it doesn't excuse the high sodium intake, which leads to high blood pressure, but I'm in there, and I had a great experience. I'm not going to say where I went because I had a great experience, but I do want to share with you because I'm an unusual-looking guy, I'm an unusual-looking person, that you go in and, all of a sudden somebody's rushed. And again, if you have the high blood pressure, all of a sudden then you start going, I'm going to spike when they're not going to let me leave. Those people with low blood pressure, you don't know the pain that we all go through. Anyway, I know what you're saying. Stop, put down the donut and the pain will go away. You have a point there. So I'm in there, and then, I'm really having a great interaction with this person, this individual. And they're talking to me about the monitor, and then all of a sudden they go, well, I got to go. I'm 20 minutes late for my last one. And I'm going, well, I was on time. I got here because they tell you to get there a half an hour early. And I'm really trying to learn to become better, but I can't because we treat our most precious commodities, our people, like we're widgets. Now, imagine being that healthcare provider that you have someone that wants to learn, that desperately needs help, but they can't because the corporation dictates that you have to see so many patients a day. We've turned the medical practice into something that it's akin to hanging out with attorneys. It's all billable hours. Everything. The great thing about having an attorney is, sure, they'll hang out with you. It's like paying for a friend. And then you really don't get a solution with an attorney because the attorney just says, well, if I jump off the bridge, am I going to die? You could die. You could be paralyzed. You could live. Really, what are my chances of living? And that's really what, when we're talking about going through lawsuits. So when we take a look at how the Democrats, and it has been the Democrats, and yes, the Republicans to a degree have been complicit, but primarily it's been Democratic leadership. Remember, it's the Democrats that have ruled the roost for what? Since 2008, when the major changes have happened in our society. Donald Trump came in, the great disruptor, tried to stop it, and then you had the pandemic. And can you believe in the world that we're living in today, we actually have a major party politician. Remember when we used to laugh at the American Communist Party? We have a major politician today that is saying they're going to implement price controls because the nanny state, the deep state, has so overtaken our way of life. And maybe that's great east of the Great River, but the West was founded on freedom. The other day we were talking about the kids and the motorcycle and the police officer. I can remember Rick Santorum telling me the reason why people moved to the Mountain West was so authority wouldn't tell them what to do. It's part of the culture. The libertarian vibe. You ask anybody, they're not going to say they're a liberal. And any Democrat that says they're not a liberal, they're a liar. Republicans are going to say, sometimes they will say they're Republicans. Most people in Idaho will say I'm a libertarian. Because you don't have to take a tough stand on issues unless you're, and again, half the people want weed here anyway. Thankfully, law enforcement, Governor Little and Kevin Miller are saying no to weed. Anyway, I digress. So back to this. Here we have a major political candidate. As we've gone over how our system has not gotten any better for people, it's gotten worse. And now she's going to attack the food system.
So just to be very frank, I am never going to apologize for going after companies and corporations that take advantage of the desperation of the American people.
Let's hold it right there. Albertsons and Kroger are trying to merge because they say they can't compete because the margins are too low. What's she going to do to them? By the way, don't forget our friends at Beacon Plumbing, a great local business. Stop freaking call Beacon today, beaconplumbing.net. They bring us Fox.
Well, good morning, Mr. Miller, and how are you today?
I'm hanging out with you.
You're never hanging out with me, except when I get down to the valley. Just a few words on the women's movement, which began back in the 60s and 70s
People don't understand why women are wearing pants. You know, women were seeking equal rights back then, especially in the workplace. And this is the same time that we saw God taken out of our schools and the advent of Roe versus Wade, and everyone thought smoking pot was the thing to do. So we saw the beginning of the brainwashing and the cultural change in our schools and universities. Truth be known, women had to fight for the equal pay in the workplace. And if that, if that meant that they had to start acting and dressing like men, that's exactly what they did. And we didn't get to where we are today in a few months or a few years. It took decades. So now we would like to put the genie back in the bottle. And seriously, I doubt that's going to happen. We have been seeing more women get involved in politics for 2 decades. Women have been gaining power both locally and nationally, and in the corporate boardrooms for decades. So in 1992, there were 54 women serving in our Congress and our Senate, while today we have 153 in our Washington legislatures. So as of May 21st, let's see, research the population data of the U.S. Census, we had 1,621 mayors and officials who perform mayoral functions in the cities and towns of our country, with populations over 30,000. And guess how many of them, in percentages, were women?
How many?
25.1%. That's pretty significant, I would say. Women have become an important part of not just of the workplace, but they've been contributing to the family income for decades. So why are they so surprised that they're wearing pants and not skirts?
Now, I like the dresses, and I like how things used to be, and I think our society was a lot happier and better off, and quite frankly, I'm worried about the end of men.
I'm not arguing with you there, okay? But it was the men who opened the door, okay? And as far as Kamala goes, you know, she doesn't have a real economic policy or any policies at all. But she does have holistic policies, which she's going to be pushing, if you understand what they are. Now, this woman does not belong in the White House and should never have been vice president. And it was only because Joe Biden wanted someone who had a name, was a woman of color, and she can't get anywhere near the Oval Office, or we are dead in the water. The past 3 years have shown us how bad she could be. You know, and look, there's still a chance that she could be elected, although I don't think it's going to happen. But if you want to see the total demise of our country, then put her in office. And as for her running mate, I mean, here's a guy who's cohorting with Alex Soros, who is George Soros' son. I mean, he's hosting dinner parties for him in New York City. This is what we have to look forward to. Anyway, I don't have very much else to say. I just wanted to bring those 2 points up.
Well, we appreciate you and your 2 points.
Well, thank you very much, and I hope more women start wearing skirts. But like I said, we put them in that position.
You've pieced out on the skirts.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other one. Why aren't people hiring men?
Why are they hiring men?
Why are they not hiring men? I don't see men doing anything anymore. I see the poor guys just, shuffling off to Buffalo around here.
A lot more men staying home taking care of the kids while the women are out there working. Most of the time because they're the ones who can get the job. They get lower pay, but they're easily more employable nowadays.
They get the job. Why won't they hire men? What's wrong with men?
I guess I don't think they're productive.
You know, I don't know about you, but I'm down with the men. I guess you left us for the skirts.
Where is that thing that you always play when you're down with the men?
This is the 80s, and I'm down with the ladies. Ain't no plans with a man.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
Right. All right.
Love you, Cannon. Love your show, and thank you so much for what you do.
We love you. Our great friend Tea Party Bob. Phone number's here, 580-5436. 580
KIDO.
369, the goose drank wine, the monkey chewed tobacco on the streetcar line. The line broke, the monkey got choked. Kevin Miller and all his crazy buddies went to heaven.
Bell, Concerned and Emmett, Go Dana, Laugh Out Loud, Elite Clicker, What's Weirdo, Elite Clicker. Wow, great story, Anti-Mark, not Abe Bundy in America. Growing up in the 70s, restaurant jobs were considered an entry-level positions. When did it change? Mike in Caldwell. Thank you, Mike, for that one. Coming up, back to home prices. But before that, we go to the line broke, the monkey choked. Liberal Steve says he's not a joke.
4 hours. 4 hours I've been listening to KIDO today. And I'm trying to make sense of what I listened to for 4 hours. I mean, it sounded like just a bunch of men calling in to convince themselves that they weren't gay. I don't get it. Why do they have to convince themselves that they're not gay?
Are you an expert of not being gay or perhaps being gay?
Well, I don't understand it. Why do they have to convince themselves? If they have to convince themselves, maybe they are gay.
Well, where did you get the gay vibe from?
Where don't you just know what you are by the time you reach puberty? As far as sexuality wise,
I know what I know what I am. What are you?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They don't know. And then Lucy, oh good God, I think Lucy just wanted to be a man so bad, but she's not a lesbian and she's not gay and she's a straight heterosexual and she hates it. I don't know what to tell her.
Who are you today?
Lucy.
Who are you today, Dr. Phil?
Well, I'm trying to help these people get on with their lives, and don't worry about the guy that's living next door to them or the gal that's living next door to them, because these are all your neighbors and these are all Kamala voters everywhere out there. And now that Trump is losing, you guys got nothing else to talk about?
What are you talking about? Trump isn't losing; he's winning.
Trump has lost big time. It's all over but the cry.
Didn't you hear that? Didn't you hear that she wants to implement price controls? Why don't we just call her Khrushchev?
We all have price controls.
Why don't we just call her Kamala Khrushchev?
Yeah, they don't even understand what fascism is, or communism is, or socialism is, or capitalism is. They don't understand any of it. All they know is that they got
not winning.
Go to work.
She's not winning.
She's won. It's over, Kevin.
When are you going to bend the knee?
It's over. So
how is it over when the polls, especially in the battleground states, which Trump always outperforms, it's neck and neck? You're not winning Georgia. You're not winning North Carolina. You're not winning Arizona. You're not winning Nevada. You're
what do you mean?
the loser.
It's a tie. It's a heads-up tie in those states.
And Trump always outperforms the polls, as we know that.
So, can I call the week of when Kamala wins? Can I call that week and say, Kevin Miller, I told you so. I told you so.
Why would you say that? You would do that anyway.
I'm a told you so person.
You are.
So, yeah, the future's the future. I mean, everybody keeps talking about there won't be electric this, there won't be electric that. Oh, God, they just go on. It's like we stood still since we came out of the caves. We stood still, since who was leader of Rome during the time of Jesus?
Caesar, right?
Huh?
What, Augustus?
Was it Caesar?
No, it was Augustus. Augustus when Jesus was born, Augustus Caesar, I believe.
Augustus. Ooh. Has anything changed since then?
Caesar Augustus.
Has anything changed since then? Oh, yeah, let's see. We went from chariots to go-karts. Life changes every split
I don't think
every
that... What's that?
day.
What's that, Sweet William? He says nothing year after year? What is the listener benefit of having this guy on? That's a great point, Sweet William.
I'm surprised that you don't have an interpreter there yet. Press 1 if you want to talk in Latin, press 2 if you want to talk in Spanish. press 3 if you want to talk in Arabic.
No,
I mean, those days are
we're
gone.
really not going to go international. We will live and die with America because we love America.
Well, you don't love America.
I love America.
Do you love Americans?
Yes.
Well, you don't sound like it. You sound like it's nothing but hate your brother, hate your sister, hate everybody unless it's Trump.
369, the goose drank wine, the monkey chewed tobacco on the streetcar line. The line broke, the monkey got choked. Kevin Miller and all his crazy buddies went to heaven.
I had to put a little pause and that went to heaven because I didn't want to say the other thing.
Well, I mean, you in your own words, you talk about how great the program is and how great the people are.
Well, I'm not saying that.
Yes, you are. First,
I'm
you
not
accused
saying
all
that
the
it
men that listen to this program of being gay.
Well, does that make it a bad
Maybe you don't love America. Maybe you don't love men. Maybe you do love the men. And maybe, as the therapist will tell you, you're projecting your own inadequacies onto us. Maybe you should come out of the closet and quit being closeted.
I know. I've been hoarding the men all my life. I gotta let them out of the house.
Thank you for the call, Liberal Steve. Joining us now, our great friend, Ron Grant.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Who's going to tell us about how to keep our money safe. Easier said than done, but Ron has a plan, and it's worked for him and his folks for many, many years. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, buddy. Yes, sir. You know, we want to make sure everyone knows there's a better way to keep that money 100% safe. You know, here's a question for everybody out there. Have you started your longevity planning yet? You know, according to the Stanford Center on Longevity, people today will exceed the life expectancy of the 20th century by 30 years. And that's a long time to have to be drawing money out of a retirement plan that doesn't offer a lifetime income. So questions for you. Do you have a lifetime guaranteed income out of the risk and fees of the Wall Street casino? And will you outlive your money in your traditional retirement plan? Number 3, how bad will the next 08, 09 situation be for you? You know, back in that day, people lost trillions of dollars. My clients and I didn't lose a dime. And that's important, Kevin, because we provide a lifetime income for people to live on, take care of their families in retirement.
Ron, if people would like to get some information from you, how can they do that?
Information is great. Knowledge is power, and that's what I do. I've got a great educational website that they can go on 24/7. There's articles there that they can read. There's a book that they can download. They can email me from the site at safermoneyspecialist.com. And then let's have a phone conversation on how to do that longevity planning for you and your family right here in the Treasure Valley. It's 208-660-1372.
Hey, Ron, thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Have a great day.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Okay, Clay and Buck. Caller 17. First hour of Clay and Buck will win the tickets to the Boise State. I didn't give the call. That's not the cue to call. That's during Clay and Buck. It'll be caller 17. Now, don't call in right now. People are calling in. You're not going to win those tickets. It's next hour, caller 17. You'll get a pair of tickets, Boise State versus Washington State, courtesy of Clay and Buck and the Kevin Miller program. Hank in Boise, good morning. You're on with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you for the call.
Good morning. I'll tell you an experience I had with price controls. That's when I was working in a grocery store, Albertsons, back in the 70s. And what the result was we ended up getting shortages of everything, from sugar to flour, just before, where the grocery stocks and shelves were running low of everything. And then after the price controls were released, then we had this big, massive bunch of price changes. This is the day before you had barcodes and stuff in the stores, so you had to go through each individual can, each individual item, and wipe out the old price. We would get as much as 3 times a week, almost 1,000 price changes, where we would spend the whole night just doing nothing but just doing price changes across the store. And that's what the reality of it is. And unfortunately, The person that pushed that within the Nixon administration back in the 70s was John Connally, Nixon's Secretary of the Treasury. And I'll tell you what, that was a fiasco in itself. And I might mention to you that in the old Soviet Union, they had a massive bureaucracy of thousands who made decisions on prices and stuff like that. You could not, and they could not keep control of the price. I mean, they basically ended up with a system where everybody had to stand in line waiting for only one or two items on a shelf under the old bureaucracy of the Soviet Union. And this woman does not have any understanding. The whole point of the market system is prices are the means of regulation without a massive bureaucracy. Prices determined basically if prices go up, you get more supply. If the prices go down, you got more demand. And that's as simple as that. And this woman can't even understand basic economic 101 when she spots this. But the Democrats were playing the same old game even back in the 70s when they kept on saying about price gouging. Companies keep an unfair advantage. It seemed like the Democrats live on a different planet. They don't seem to live in the world of reality 101. What is the real world? I mean, and they still haven't. I mean, this is what amazes me. Nobody's learned from just our own past experience in the country. You had the same effect in the Second World War 30 years earlier when you had the opposite price administration under Leon Henderson under FDR. Same thing. By the time the end of the war was, you had shortages all over the place, and then when they released the prices exploded. And that was a big reason why the Democrats lost to Congress in 1946 under Harry Truman. So the Democrats and the left never seem to. It's like a matter of faith to them. They don't deal in the real world. And can I make a real short comment about health to your health to me just a second, because I'm not an experienced doctor, but I do have a feeling that if you don't mind, I think you need to really get your weight down and get it down fast, because if you're in your 50s, 56, 57, it's dangerous to be that heavy.
Hank, I appreciate that. Thank you.
We wouldn't be able to replace you. We got these pennyhead liberals in Channel 2, Channel 7, Channel 6, and it'd be very difficult in the Valley to get a counter voice if you suddenly had a health crisis where you could no longer do your job. I hope that you're be able to do that, because I think we need you in the Valley.
Thank you, Hank. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Let's go to Steve in Idaho with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Kevin. Great show today, man. This is the longest I've ever listened to your show. After all these years, man, it was hot and fire today. Good job.
Well, thank you. Now, are you in North Idaho?
I'm in Meridian.
Okay, so Steve in Meridian. All right, so we have a Steve in North Idaho and we have a Steve in Meridian, yes.
Yeah. And man, so many things to talk about, but I think common sense is not common anymore. I think back to the last election. You go to bed, Trump's winning all the states. You wake up, they show up in the middle of the night with bags and bags of votes that allegedly kick Biden over the edge in all the states they needed to. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that there's fraud. But despite fraud, there was enough people who did vote for Biden, and that's the trouble. And it's concerning that enough people are going to vote for Harris again. And the thing that comes to mind for me is when you were talking earlier, Kevin, about how Kamala promises everything. It reminds me of how children are kidnapped. They're promised candy, toys, and fun. It leads to their destruction, their trouble, their death, or something as crazy as the Trojan horse story in history. Whether it's true or not, people have been fooled in bigger ways. And I'm concerned because there's enough people in the country who do not have common sense, who do not think, who literally believe a politician can solve all their problems, that they're going to vote the wrong way. And so what do we do about it? Well, we vote. We also talk with people. We pray about it. How many things can you really do? But ultimately, It's a generational trouble. We've got to teach the next generation more common sense. And that starts with the Bible, families, a mom and a dad raising kids. And that's what we want, Kevin, for the future. And it is not trending that way. But enough people can make a change, just like a ripple in a lake. So I could say that what comes to mind for me is also the famous story in the Bible, how God said, hey, you can have all the trees you want, eat all the fruit you want, but don't eat of this one tree, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And what does the devil do? He lies as big as possible and says, did God really tell you not to eat of that tree? And that's what politicians who lie do. They said, did we really say that you should have a real border? Did we really say that you should have freedom? I mean, all these things are lies. And Kevin, let's just pray for Donald Trump and awesome people rising up in the next generation to lead us as well. Thanks for your show today.
God bless. Thank you, Steve. Kevin, middle of the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Back to the vice president, Kamala, saying that she's going to implement price controls, even though this is the dumbest thing possible.
Saw this happen in the midst of an emergency, whether it be an extreme weather event or even the pandemic. We saw it where those few companies, not the majority, not most, but those few companies that would take advantage of the desperation of people and jack up prices. Yeah, I'm going to go after them. Yes, I'm going to go after them. And that is part of a much more comprehensive plan on what we can do to bring down the cost of living, including housing, including the everyday needs of the American people.
So the folks on CNBC had a field day with this, where they're talking about her and, you know, what type of system. Now, remember, CNBC, it's about stocks, it's about money, it's everything else. They're rarely going to criticize a candidate, but when your economic policies cross a line, here's where they go. By the way, I love the quote here. Last time we did that was the 1970s. It didn't end well.
She didn't say she wasn't going to implement price controls and didn't really explain the policy, but this continues to be one of her centerpiece topics around inflation, and it just doesn't make economic sense. And to back it up further, here's a chart for you of what's been happening with grocery price inflation. According to the CPI, it's come back down.
Yeah.
So yes, we're all feeling it because if there's a cumulative impact and prices are still more than 20% higher than they were in 2019, but the prices are coming down, and it's just not clear what a government.
No, but also you've made the point. The margins did not appreciably increase.
Correct.
And so,
So
I don't know what this
this
price gouging. I mean, maybe there are certain pockets of certain areas of the economy. I don't know.
It's pockets where input costs are still high and commodities prices are still high. And, you know, the whole notion, look, if your opponent is painting you as a communist, maybe don't talk about price controls and price gouging. Last time we did this in the 70s, you know, when we had the last inflation scare where Nixon put in place price and wage control.
And with all due respect, she wasn't around during Nixon. I was just a little baby during Nixon, but the price controls, it would be great if it would work. It would be wonderful. It would be outstanding. It would be something that would be welcomed for everyone. But it's not going to work. Really, her policy, her strategy is that we're all stupid. And there's going to be more stupid people that are going to vote for the stupid candidate because they want the stupid things that we stupidly cannot afford. I love so many of you. I love the grit and the realness in your lives. I love the fact that you work, the fact that you sacrifice, the fact that you love this country. It's easy to praise God when things go your way. A little more challenging when God decides to give you obstacles. Sometimes obstacles that question your faith, your focus. And yet you work in quiet anonymity to help others without the glamour of the radio or the TV or the digital smidgital. You are the heroes. You deserve better. And that's why you'll always be welcome with me, because we all roll together. And I love, as I stumble my way through life with you at my side or me by your side, that I can hear and try to replicate what you do every day to make the world better for you, your family, your sacrifices. Because the lesson of America is not about what you're owed, it's what you've earned. It's initiative, not entitlement. It's sacrifice, not selfishness. And that's why we will prevail. That's why we will prevail. They're like the boss that never gives you a compliment. They're not going to tell you we're doing great. They want to keep the leverage, because if people open up their eyes and have a brain, they'll know that she is dangerous. Price controls, that's so Khrushchev. We're not the country of Khrushchev. We're the country of Washington. God bless everybody. Keep the faith. And I do love you.